because I can't see it.
You're live.
All right, guys. I hope you are ready for probably one of the biggest shows we've had in forever. I want to say welcome to the Dragon Drive Show presented by Summit Racing for July 19th, 2023. Let's get into this thing. Guys, I'm here with Dave Teresi, Mr. Energy.
Oh, yeah, I'm psyched to be here. Thanks for having me. And I'm
Oh, we're looking this for a 6 something. That's
Excited you're here. It's going to be a ton of fun. Great weather.
What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really excited about this right here. All right, guys, welcome to the show. My name is Mike Narks. I run dragondrive.com and all the Dragon Drive addiction, I don't know, branding, I guess is probably the easiest way to say that. I am the host of the show. And then, Eric, tell them who you are, dude, because you're a busy man.
My name's Eric White. I'm co-host of the Dragon Drive Show, Dragon Drive News. I run my own channels, 815 LSX Swaps and Motorsports Paparazzi, and I guess I do a little bit of everything in between while I'm while I'm around, huh?
Yeah, that's for sure. You have been a huge help. Well, guys, if you didn't know, Eric and I attended an event together last week, our first big event, first week-long event to do. So we're going to talk about that into just a little bit, and then I just want to make sure that you guys are following us on whichever app you're watching. Hit that follow button, hit the subscribe wherever you're at. You can also find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And then please drop us a comment over in the side there and let us know where you are watching from and which app you're on, so we know where to post more. You know what I mean? I want to start the show by thanking all of the OGs of the brand and welcoming a ton of new followers. We had a huge 10 days of growth on social media for the brand the last few days. Without your likes, comments, and shares, this wouldn't be possible. Also, thank you to our sponsors, Summit Racing, Molly Motorsports North America, Howard's Cam, Sweet Patina, and Racing Junk Classifieds. Dude, that was a lot. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Just
Okay.
getting through all of our comments here.
I know it's crazy. I see them popping up there, guys. Thank you so much for making comments over there. Listen, huge announcement right here, right out of the gate. Um, we have a booth at PRI 2023.
Yes.
Do I need to say that again? We have a booth. Dragon Drive Addiction has a booth at PRI 2023. You guys can come see us at booth 4746. We're right over by the Wagler competition booth, which is going to be really cool because our buddy Danny Diesel, is going to be hanging out in there. PRI 2023 is December 7th through 9th at Indianapolis Convention Center. We did that so then we can also host the Dragon Drive Awards show presented by Summit Racing at PRI as well. Now, I know we've talked about the Dragon Drive Awards, but guys, that's where we're going to award the first ever Dragon Drive World Champion. I'm excited about that. We're also going to have a ton of other awards going on there. That will be hosted Thursday morning of the PRI show, Thursday morning at 11 a.m. So our contact at PRI said that that meeting should be on the app coming up in the next few days. So I would think sometime next week we'll remind you to jump in the PRI 2023 app and set that meeting so you know to be there. So you know what that means. Take off a day early. Get to PRI by Thursday morning at 11 a.m. so you can come in and be part of the first ever Dragon Drive Awards. I'm really excited about that. So if you or anyone, a company that you know, wants to be involved in those awards, reach out to us. Let us know what you would like to, I don't know, award or give to a racer throughout the year, and we can certainly set something up with that. You can email us or messages here on the on any of the apps that you're watching on right now. And then one last piece of housekeeping, real quick. I'm still working through a huge pile of data for the Dragon Drive World Champion Point Series, and I should have updates, I would think, by this Saturday's Drag and Drive news. There's just a lot of data there that I've got to almost manually manipulate right now until I can figure out the right formula for all of that stuff. So pretty,
Yeah, that's exciting. The PRI thing
yeah.
is going to be awesome. I know
Oh
you
man.
and I had a lot of time together while we were driving, and I think we came up with some cool ideas of some
Yep.
fun stuff to do at PRI. So I'm excited.
Oh man, I'm telling you, I was talking to our lady yesterday and she was talking about booth setup and all that stuff. So we'll get there Wednesday, be able to set up our booth, which is a 10 by 10, nothing really big or extravagant or anything like that. Not even big enough to put a car in unless maybe we put the MG in it, but I think it's going to be too tight. But something simple, a table, a backdrop, something that you guys can come by. We're going to have some specialty one-off PRI stuff that we're going to print up for that event. And then we're also going to, have a spot. You guys know I love taking selfies with racers and other promoters of other events. So we're going to have that little bit of booth area in our booth, I guess. So we're going to have a lot of fun stuff. We're talking about maybe some cardboard cutouts put around hidden in special spots at PRI. So it's going to be really cool. And again, working hard to do all that. Now that I'm full time, guys, it's on. I've spent all day today making notes for the show. This may be one of our longest shows ever. I don't know. We've got guests from all kinds of events. We've got promoters. We've got John Mankia hitting the back already. He is going to tell us about swapping an engine in the parking lot, driving overnight. It's going to be a great story, and then all the stuff that comes from that. So moving on, let's talk about more Drag and Drive news. How about the NHRA Mile High Nationals? Wait, that's not Drag and Drive stuff, except for that it's at Bandimere, which obviously Rocky Mountain Race Week, our friends out there have gone to that track almost every year they've hosted since 2015. Maybe every year, I'd have to check. But over the weekend, NHRA hosted the Mile High Nationals at Bandimere. They invited 4 stick shift drag and drive racers to come out and make exhibition runs for an entirely new batch of people to see and introduce to the drag and drive racers. So obviously, when you do that, you have some real heavy hitters. So Adam Dory announced the racing. If you're not part of the RMRWers page, you need to jump in there and get on that. They have a short video that Adam posted. So he announced while the drag and drive stick cars were racing. And then Adam Dory and Rich Guido were actually interviewed by Clay Millican. I watched it again today. Super cool. That dude was all over Rich Guido and Bill Armstrong's cars. Really interested in that stuff. And, Clay Millican was supposed to come out in Dentley to Sick Week, but they didn't get the truck done in time to get there. So, and then he goes on and later wins the entire Mile High Nationals in Top Fuel. So that's pretty cool. Rich Guido drove all the way down from Canada to make one pass. He literally made one pass during the event. And then Bill Armstrong brought out the Fairlane Miles Groves in the Coyote swapped Fox body that I think that thing turns like 9,400 RPM or something crazy like that. Tony Latimer came out in a Pro Charge Gen 6 Camaro. And, I was thinking about it as I was watching. I can't imagine just a better group of drag and drive ambassadors than Adam and all of those guys. So it was really cool to watch the 3 minutes of video that's on that page. I'm sure it's on the Rocky Mountain Race Week page too. Really, really a great opportunity for all those racers. And of course, the stick shift stuff is growing leaps and bounds in the event. I've got a bug on my hat.
Adam and Rich are both here in the comments too.
You get 2 eventually. I got it.
Yeah, he said 7,100 on the leave and 9,400 on the chip.
Wow, that's a bunch. All right, me and this bug are going to fight. I'm telling you right now. I've been busy behind the scenes. I've been writing a bunch of articles and things like that on dragandrive.com. So if you haven't been over there, here are some updates for that. Obviously, writing articles. I featured Jay and Brian the other day. We did a Mike Conforti article, and then I'm in the middle of writing an article about the 12.0 index, which we're actually going to talk about here in just a little bit from Midwest Drags because it was so highly contested. It was absolutely intense. There's index racing, I think, is a great wave that we're seeing in the drag and drive community. So I'm going to continue to write stuff. Obviously I have what I thought was going to be ample time to do all this, but if you've been watching the Drag and Drive channel on Instagram and then our Narcoleptic Customs channel on YouTube, We've actually purchased a new project car, and so we had to go get that thing. I gave $20 for a little minor Hillman a Morris Hillman wagon for my 10-year-old daughter. So gave $20 and 12 packs of beer for a car. Like it was pretty
How,
crazy.
how did that negotiation come about? Because I hadn't even asked you that yet.
Oh,
You were
so
at an auction, right?
yeah. So it's really a good story. About a mile from where I used to work, there was this old body shop, and out back were all of these Morris Minors, like 12 or 15 of them. And so, of course, Steven is a huge small car fan. He likes little cars, MG Midget, all that kind of stuff. And so anytime I'd ride my bicycle, I'd ride by that place just to check it out, because the 90-year-old man that owned it was no longer obviously doing body work. And you could just see stuff was piled up everywhere inside in the fenced in area out back and everything like that. So there was an auction on it because he passed away a few months ago. Auction there. I thought, man, I'll go in. Well, there was a Morris delivery, which is a very, very rare, Morris Minor is a tiny, tiny car. And then it has, this was like a box truck of that. So it was super goofy looking. It would have been perfect to haul merch around in. So I thought I'll go to 500 or 600 on this. Well, another person had driven from Searcy to come literally buy all of the Morrises. He was like, I'm buying them all. And he said, that's the one I want, because that's the one I don't have. So immediately I'm like, man, screw it. I'll go home. I was like, I'm not going to give just crazy money for it. So then a friend of ours named Irby, who I actually did an LS swap in a Toyota Land Cruiser for a long time ago, he messaged me. He goes, these cars are going for literally $5 and $10. So it blew my mind. So I holler at my daughter, who had gone up with me that morning. I'm like, hey, come on, let's go. And so I said, these cars are going for like $5. So we jump in the car, hit every red light on the way up there. Well, this little wagon was 2 cars before the delivery. As we literally slide in, they're auctioning the car after the delivery. So I was like, oh man, I was heartbroken, And so we're standing there, and I'm complaining that I should have been up there sooner and all that kind of stuff. And or should have just stayed. And he goes, well, I bought the Hillman wagon for 15. And I was like, oh man, because the delivery went for 1,100. He's like, I took it to 1,100 to try and buy it for you, and then you could just buy it from me, And I was like, no, thanks, I appreciate it. He said it sold for 1,150. So I was like, dang, man, I hate that. And he goes, well, I gave 15 for the Hillman wagon if you guys wanted it, because my 10-year-old's all over it too, And so I was like, oh man, no, I'm out on 1,500. He goes, no, I gave $15 for it. I was like, you gave $15 for it, like 1.5? And he said, yeah. I was like, I'll double your money right now. He goes, why don't you give me some beer and we'll call it even. So I was like, deal. So I run to the store, grab some beers, grab a 20, and I didn't know what kind of beers he liked, so I grabbed 3 different kinds. You can watch all this in the video. So anyways, for $20 cash and 12 packs of light beer, we now own a Hillman, a Morris Hillman wagon. So
That's pretty cool.
It's tiny. Like, we're going to do a Miata front suspension and powertrain, and it'll get 25, 30 miles a gallon. I'll drive it all over the country. And she said we have to have it done by Rocky Mountain Race Week 1.0 when she turns 13. So whatever, 2026, car's got to be done by Rocky Mountain 1.0 so she can race in Junior Street. So
That'll be really cool.
Yeah. So that's going to be fun. That car is going to be a back burner car till I get the cart gone and then the old truck back on the road. And then we'll start working on it, gathering parts and things like that. So yeah, long story, or short story, really long there. Apologize about that. I'm just excited about that little car.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and she's excited too. So anytime we can get kids into this sport and give them a reason to build something, that's always a plus. So make sure you're watching the news section of the dragondrive.com pretty regularly, because I'll be updating links and stuff to videos in there, as well as all over our social. I'll put some of the stuff here, but most of that car will be built on the Narcoleptic Customs branded channels. So get in depth with all that. So I'm just here for the severe beating of a high school janitor. Mop, 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 all day long. Now, see, here's why that's funny. Because during one of the live streams, the guy was mopping the track, and I started singing that song. So thank you to Anthony Harville, who was watching that. I appreciate him very much for coming out. It was great to see him and say hi. The newest post on the dragondrive.com news section is the list of drag and drive events. I hope y'all understand we have had 17 drag and drive events in 2023 already. Already 17 events. It's absolutely insane the amount of stuff that we've seen. The next event coming up is Miles of Mayhem that starts this weekend in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. So good luck to all of those racers. I know they won't be paying attention to anything we put out on Saturday, but hopefully they can catch next week's show while they're drinking beers in front of the swimming pool or a fire. And then we've got a break of almost a month before Nostalgia Nights event at Bunker Hill, Indiana. So while we've had this crazy run in June and July, we're finally going to take a little bit of a break, which will give me plenty of time to catch up. It has been way more intense, and my time management skills are way worse than what they were when I had a job, I think. Now I have time to do more research and look at stuff and really dig deep. And you guys are going to be able to see that in the articles with the level of detail that I can provide now that I wasn't necessarily providing before. So anyways, I'm working to compile all that data. I keep saying that, but I am. My plan is to have the I Survived a Drag and Drive 2023 list up by next week so we can have some numbers as to how many people have competed in the Drag and Drive for this year, compare that to previous years and all that kind of stuff. So I look to have it up by next week, by next Wednesday. And then I'll have the fastest 100 list, quarter mile list updated by this weekend for the Drag and Drive news on Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Central Time, 9 a.m. Eastern. So, whew. And I feel like I've rattled a lot there. I'm gonna give you guys a break from hearing me. And we're gonna thank one of our sponsors, Molly Motorsports North America.
Molly Motorsports is the official piston of DragOnDrive.com. Molly's Power Pack piston is the perfect candidate for your drag and drive car. Molly Motorsports competes in drag and drive events and supports our community. Project manager Eric Grillo raced a 10-second stick shift Nova at Hot Rod Drag Week 2022. He's also competed in Rocky Mountain Race Week last year with his C10 truck. Visit mollymotorsports.com for the most recent line of products.
All right. And then let's start talking about Summit Racing Midwest Drags. If you guys didn't know and you haven't heard already, Eric and I spent an entire week together, dude. Like, how many miles did we drive together? 2,000?
I calculated my entire trip and it was 2,500. So
Yeah.
I would say
yeah.
2,000 of those were together.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time together. It was great. We had a lot of windshield time. We filled half a notepad full of stuff that we have plans for, guys. I'm telling you, this is me being full time is going to be great once I get my time management stuff figured out. One thing that I do want to start the show with, because I know you guys have seen it, is the Atco Dragway closing permanently, immediately. Absolutely blows my mind. So I want to say that it was really cool knowing that now that the racers of Midwest Drags are one of the last groups to make passes down that track. So that's really kind of neat. It's really sad when a track like that goes away, because in that part of the country, they're just cracking down on them really hard. I thought it was really weird that it closed just without warning. Hey, we're not going to be open anymore. And I saw a post that said the racers had accepted an offer that was contingent on them closing immediately. So I want to let some conspiracy theories run rampant here. What kind of company or individual would need the place to close right away? Like, I'm telling you, it's really strange, because you got to think, like, if you're a builder, maybe your other lot couldn't work, but you had to have something up into, I don't know. It's really strange to think that, like, hey, I'm going to give you this money and you're going to close right now. Like, how does that work? What is that? So tell us in the comments what you think. What kind of conspiracy is going on? What stuff have you heard? A lot of guys, I saw Mike Corsilli the other day making comments. He's like, man, that was my home track. How did that happen? So
I think I heard somewhere that it sold for like 10 million.
Man.
And another cool thing that we didn't talk about is the fact that you and I, with Josh obviously was our announcer, but you and I got to jump on and talk on the mic a little bit, which is really cool, being that now it's closed. We were there and got to do a little bit of announcing, which was kind of fun.
Yep. I actually never picked up the mic at Atco. That was all you. Oh no,
Was
I'm
it?
thinking of Cecil. Yeah, we were
Yeah.
at Atco. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I'm flipping those two around. Yeah, I was thinking Cecil because that's where John had all of his stuff going. So, yeah, pretty crazy that that was the only time I announced during the week at all, really, except for a little bit on Friday.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. It's pretty sad. I don't know what's going on with this stuff and how they do it. So, anyways, let's start talking about some racing because we've got to get to John. Um, I want to start with the street race small block power rider class because obviously that's my favorite. But some of those people in there were some of my favorite racers of all time. We all know that. And then Fast Act Racing, Brian Acton and Jay Blanchard repeat their class win. And here's some stats I thought were really kind of cool. They made the fastest two passes of the week, two 8.508s at Cecil. Literally, me and you standing down there. One
Back
of
to
the
back.
back to back last passes of the day, probably within 30 minutes of each other. Jay had said earlier in the week that car takes about 25 or 30 minutes to turn around and get ready for for a second pass, and they did that right on the number. I'm telling you.
Yeah. We
But
were
what?
we were
Go ahead.
down there. We were down there, and he ran the 8508, the first one. And I asked Jay, I said, "You're not going to change anything, right?" And he goes, "Nope." And when they came back around, I go, "You didn't change anything, right?" And he goes, "Well, Brian peed, but he also drank a bottle of water, so I think we're even." And then he
Yeah.
ran that 8508 for the second time, which was really cool.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And the reason they pushed so hard, I don't remember how many passes they made that day. Jay will probably tell us. I saw him in the comments a while ago, but I think they made 5 or 6 passes that day, and they had been struggling all morning. But really, Pat Reed put them into panic mode when he came in, and first pass he made right. I mean, it was like early that morning, 8:30 or 9 o'clock. He made an 8.509 pass, and they were like, "Oh crap, we got to get busy," because at that point they only had a lead of like 0.014. That's man, that's crazy. So the 8508, those two passes there at Atco and then or at Cecil, and then they only had one other 850 pass during the week, and it was an 8509. So pretty crazy that class was so tight. Mike Mayone reset the mile an hour class record for that one with a second place finish at 162.95 miles an hour. 106 millimeter turbo doing absolute work. I
and
mean, that
blew
car,
and blew the back window out.
dude, 165 mile an hour. Did he crack the side window? I don't know. But Rob Ambrose was on a pass for his 10-0 class, and the window comes out, back window comes out of the car and flies right over Rob's car. So I think we got it on camera. I just haven't made it to that video yet.
Yeah, we got a
That's
lot of
my
videos to go
oh man,
through.
300 and something videos minimum from the week, just on the big camera, and lots of stuff on our phones and
Right.
all that. So it was pretty intense. I've got some numbers in a minute that'll talk about how much we posted. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if you
So
see this. Brian Moss is in the comments too. That was somebody else that had a really cool car that we got to talk
oh
to.
yes, Brian Moss's AMC Eagle wagon, man, or
Yeah.
Eagle wagon. I don't know, whatever it was. I love that thing. And what really set that car apart was the interior.
Yes.
The seats in that car are really cool. I'm working. That's another video. We did a full walk around, all the stuff on that car. He told us all about it. The car makes 600 horsepower out of a inline 4 liter,
Yeah.
6 cylinder. So pretty cool. Um, do want to say that Pat ended up having to bow out of the competition due to heat exhaustion. Guys, it is real. I can't tell you how many times, like you've got to drink Gatorade, you've got to drink water, you've got to drink that stuff, especially as the summer gets on. Luckily we're into kind of two events here before we get into the September run again. But you've got to have plenty of water, you've got to have all that stuff. So he bowed out. He was actually overheated on Tuesday, had some bouts of almost fainting, and then fought through it. Got in the pool, got cooled down at the hotel, really limited himself on passes on Wednesday. And then we come out, and Thursday was like a 112, feels like temp. And he was out of there by noon or 1, but it just wasn't enough. They got to the hotel and they were like, we're not going to fight anymore. But his 8509 certainly put Jay and Brian on they were scared for sure. So moving on, I want to say congratulations to all the guys in the 850 class. That was primo stuff there. Watching that run, we got a ton of video from all of those competitors. Brandon Cirillo was another big competitor in that class. Mike Mayon, which we mentioned, Pat Reed, all that stuff. So we got a lot of passes. I intend to do a big story that goes along with a full video of that entire class, because again, I love that class, but also a lot of those racers, those are highly competitive folks. But speaking of competition, the index racing, man,
Wow.
it is the first year that Midwest Drags had opened up to anything slower than 1050, and so they had a 10.0 Street Machine Eliminator, they had a Street Machine Eliminator 11.0, and a Street Machine SME 12.0 index. So the 11.0 and 12.0 were inaugural classes for this event. So they actually will set the mile per hour and ET records to be broken in the future. In the 12.0 class, there were 29 cars, dude. 29 cars. It was crazy. So the top 5 finished with 12.0 something averages. First in that class was Zach Stevens, who we're going to talk about here in just a second, with a 12.009, so barely there. And then second was Will Shackelford with a 12.013, and literally 0.001 behind him was Scott Franks in the Chevelle wagon. Crazy.
Those guys
Crazy.
made passes after pass.
Well, we're fixing to talk about it right here, because I'm telling you, this Zach Stevens story, the article I'm writing on it's going to be great. He gave me some in-depth stuff. I'm going to go into a little bit here, but it's way cooler once you hear all this stuff. So he sent, I had to ask, how many passes did you guys make during the week? Zach made 61 total passes during the week. 61 passes. To put that into perspective, Jay and Brian made 29 total passes, including testing. So that's pretty crazy. Here's where Zach stuff goes just completely next level. He had 27 12.0 passes, right? 12.0 something passes. He had 5 12.00 with an X passes, 5 of them. Okay. He went on to win the class, obviously. Out of his 8 submitted passes, 5 of those were the 12.00 passes. Dude, think about that. How do you compete with that? One of them was a 0.00. Like, it was perfect pass.
He did.
2 were 12.01 passes, and then a single 12.02 pass. So, I mean, obviously, it takes that to put a win together in a highly contested class like that. His mom raced with him. His mom was his co-pilot, Tina. She came out every time I saw her, and you probably agree with this. She had a huge smile on her face.
Oh,
She's having a blast. I got her to finally talk to the camera. I asked why are you co-pilot? Because his dad was his co-pilot last year. And she said, if your 22-year-old son asks you to go race with him for a week, you go. And so it made me realize, like, I need to ask my mom to go with me, So, Mom, if you're watching this, we may do some drag and drive events here pretty soon together.
And then we ended up sitting right across from him at dinner one night too.
Yep. That was a great time, and it was really cool to just, I'm telling you, as an adult, you don't ever get to hang out with your parents like you probably should, because like it takes probably into your mid 20s or early 30s maybe to where you're kind of like even with your parents, then you realize they're just adults. So Zach's car is a 79 Camaro named Sydney. If anybody would like to tell us why it's named Sydney, that'd be great. I know the reason. It'd be great to see that. Blueprint crate engine, 383 small block, 460 horsepower, 480 foot-pounds of torque. I mean, dude, this car gets down. It's got a Jimmy Rice manual valve body, turbo 350, DNR driveline, drive shaft, and Patriot Performance 10 bolt with 373s and a mini spool. So, in this whole conversation I was having with him, he said that it was important that the car stayed together because that's his daily driver that runs him and his sister to work every day. Like, dude, it doesn't get any better than that. That's
right.
I wish I was 22 and had a 79 Camaro again, or at all. I never had a 79 Camaro, but so anyway, so if anybody knows why the car's named Sydney, that'd be great. And then it says Will Shackelford made over 50 passes and lost the transmission on the last pass. Wow, he didn't say anything to me about that. Because that's our next person up. The second place, Will Shackelford, 02 Trans Am LS1 Turbo 400 and 411 gear. His co-pilot was Thomas Jones. He took second in the SME 12.0, and all of his passes were submitted with 12.0s. I mean, like, can you sense something here? 3 of his 8 passes were submitted were a 12.00 something, and then 1 of his was a 12.000 on day 4. Which is a big deal because by the time you get to the end of the week, that's hard. It's hard making those hard lick passes if you're not going all out,
And these classes are going to be hard to reset the records as low as they are. Like,
Yeah.
What did you say Zach's was?
Yeah, 12.009.
Right. That's
Yep.
the average for the week. So that's going to be hard
Yeah.
to reset.
Yeah, and that's what we run into, now with Rocky Mountain Race Week also is Andrew Dapita owns that record, that ET record at 12.005. And he
Right.
made those kind of passes, 50 or 60 passes during the week to get there. And I mean, but that's what they're there for. And then 3 other of Will's were 12.01s, and then his remaining 2 passes were 12.02s. So you can do the math there, and you can see all the math at MidwestDrags.com. But Scott Franks Jr., 3rd place. This is kind of a cool story. Came out with his dad, so a lot of parent child racing going on this week. So Scott Franks, 67 Chevelle wagon, race with his dad, Scott Franks Sr., and then they made 46 passes in competition and 6 on Mosier Monday. So I thought that was pretty cool. Another Blueprint crate engines set up here. It's a 396 cubic inch small block. It's got a power glide, 4 10s, and a 12 bolt with a strange spool and axle. So that's kind of cool. Car makes almost 500 horsepower. But what I thought was interesting is they actually raced on a 235/60. So a tiny tire to get out there. So Mickey Thompson ET Street. So that was pretty neat to go through that with them. Intend to again write an article about that. Scott did say we removed the hood, dropped the exhaust, adjusted shift points to make it happen all week. They went through 2 alternators and a belt during the week, and then they didn't even think they'd be competitive, let alone place. Here's where it gets pretty interesting. So he's 3rd place. All of his submitted passes were 12.0 something, right? 5 of his 8 were 12.00 passes. Okay. 2 of them are 12.01 passes. This is where it gets sad. His final pass that he submitted, it was actually one of his first on day 1, was a 12.046, which on day 1, you would look at that and go, that's competitive. I'm glad we made it. Hey, cool. Let's get this thing and get out of here. Here's where it's sad. If that pass had been an 03 anything, they'd have won the class.
Wow.
Dude, that's nuts. So, and then we also want to thank Mama Franks for bringing us some cookies. I mean,
Yeah,
that was
cool.
exciting. That was the first time we've ever had that happen.
Right.
So that was pretty neat. Go ahead.
I was just going to say one thing that you didn't mention with any of these guys was the number of 11, 9, 6, 8, 9. Like, especially with Scott Franks. I mean, I don't remember how many times he came up and it was like 11, 9, 11, 9. And we were on the mic at that time and we're like, give him some of those cookies. He just needs a couple more pounds to slow that thing down.
Yeah, he needed 40 pounds. He needed the hood on at Atco is what he needed. Man, I bet he ran 6 1198s, 99s, 96s in a row.
Yes.
Like you and I in the tower calling it, and just heartbreaking to watch that. What's crazy is they had fought in this article I'm writing again, and they had fought to get that car to 11s. That was their whole goal the whole time, was to race in the 11 class. They weren't going to be competitive at all, but that was their goal, to get to 11s, and then they couldn't get out of them.
Right.
No, please, no. So next week we are going to talk about the 11.0 index, so keep that in mind. We with all the other stuff we've got going on tonight, that's a big enough class to discuss that. So 29 racers, those are your top three. Again, Zach Stevens, Will Shackelford, and Scott Franks.
So Zach's in here. He's given the answer to Sydney. Said
Yep.
it's named after Sid the Sloth from the movie Ice Age. It was an 18-second car when I first bought it in 2018.
Yep.
Which again, we already knew that story, but pretty cool.
Yep. Yeah, that's awesome. That's a really cool story. Scott Franks Jr. here said, I had a 12:011 past day one, but had too slow of a reaction time. Oh, brutal. Yeah, anything over 1 second, and it gets added to your time slip. So
which just makes that story even more crazy now, knowing that.
Yeah.
And then the last comment here I want to bring up is a Facebook user is asking if anyone knows the record for 8th mile stick average.
I would think whoever won Southeast Street and probably owns that record. I'd have to dig through and look. I don't have the ability to do that right now, but I tell you what, that's anytime you see Facebook user, that's in our Drag and Drive addiction group on Facebook. So I'll jump in, I'll find that comment later, and I'll dig in and answer that in that group. So if you're not part of that group, definitely go over and join, and we'll approve you once we get done with this episode. So again, next week we're going to talk about the 11.0 index because it was even tighter than the 12.0 index with 8 racers finishing with an 11.0 average. I mean, you talk about like getting down to it. So let's talk about roadside repairs. Taylor Hedrick. Well, dude, you probably own it. That or Michael Strausser, maybe. I think he won the fall event or the spring event this year. So I would think that's probably close. You or him, whichever one. So yeah, I can look it up again in just a minute. So the roadside repairs, that's always a fun story. Everybody breaking as you go down the will it takes to dig deep and do that. I'm looking right at John, who's down here in the bottom, because he's got to tell his story of this. But there was a blue Duster with an Turbo LS in it that had the heads off in the S&W parking lot. Jay Blanchard, when will the championship points be updated on the website? Very soon. I'm hoping to have them done by next Wednesday. So should have that any minute. I do know you guys are at 66 points for the year because I had that math done for the article that I wrote about those guys on dragonDrive.com/news if you haven't been there yet. So Blue Duster, they had the heads off. I can't remember if they actually swapped the cam or not. Maybe those guys can jump in here and tell us. That was at S&W Race Cars. Then the blue Corvette, the Silent Assassin, he fixed the push rods in the S&W parking lot as well. So the cool part about the John Mankia story is that John gave parts to the blue Corvette. The blue Corvette gave parts to the blue Duster, and then it kind of all circled back around. And I think John ended up getting some parts from somebody as well. So it worked out well. He's going to tell that in just a minute. Yeah. It'll have to be next week, Ryan Watts. I'm sorry. That class was huge, and there's a lot of good competition that was in that. Paulie C and I overheated the fuel pump, carrying the extra weight around. Talking about me in Philadelphia traffic. It was really, really hot. I feel bad almost. I feel like it was my fault because I kept kind of pushing Paulie back just a little bit. He had made his passes, getting the car changed over, and asked if I could jump in with him. And then I went running around for an hour talking to racers and getting interviews and stuff like that. So there was one last pass that I recorded with Brian Acton and Jay, and then literally ran pole vaulted or threw the javelin to Eric with the camera. Here you go, take that. I'm jumping in with Paulie. And so we're driving through. It's 115 outside, 187 degrees in the car, and the car just shuts off. So I had to push it uphill just a little bit, get out of the way. Almost got ran over. But once it cooled down, it was fine. We made the rest of the trip just fine.
Yeah, you went live on the side of the road too on
Instagram,
wasn't it?
on Instagram. That was pretty interesting. We were just putting fuel in then. I was going to go live when the car quit, but I literally almost got ran over. I opened the door, cracked the door, and this car comes by at about, they were full throttle in a Honda CRV, all they had, and come around me. So pretty interesting spot there, but he got it fixed. He ended up swapping the fuel pump that night once it got cooled down at the hotel or early that next morning. And then obviously we want to talk about Mike Mayone window. We talked about it leaving, ejecto seat out of the rear glass, but duct tape needs to sponsor that dude because him and I can't remember the racer that helped him put the duct tape rear window on, but it looked amazing.
Yeah.
Those guys had done a repair like that before. I'm telling you, it was pretty interesting. And we got somebody here saying they only swapped one. Oh, that's probably the Duster saying they only swapped one lifter. Yep.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So that's good that all I had to do is probably pull one head. So
Yeah, and
the
we even talked to them about the
Mhm.
duct tape, and they were going to get the white duct tape to really cover up the black and kind of make the
Yeah.
edges. It just looked like it was a tinted rear window, especially
Yeah.
when you put the big Midwest drag sticker over the duct tape on the back.
Yeah, on Mike Mann's car. It was so cool. I mean, like those guys really put a lot of thought into it. They had the ribs running down it and then the tape over it. It was they did really good. And hey, that held up. He
It
made
did.
3 or 4 160-mile-an-hour plus passes on Friday. So that happened Thursday at Cecil, and they go into that on Friday. So pretty crazy there. Quickest and fastest of the event. I'll let you go over this stuff here. I've been running away with it. Sorry, man.
No, you're good. Glenn Hunter Jr. set the quickest ET of the event with 7.231, and that was on day one. And then Ryan Hargett, who I see in the comments here, set the fastest mile per hour, 194.32 on the final day, which is a personal best for him. I don't remember what that pass was offhand, but I know it was low 7 second.
Yeah.
And then the slowest average of the event was Austin Weary in the 96 Trans Am with a 14.133.
So that's pretty cool to think that the slowest car there was a 14.1. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there were some hitters there that came out. And again, 10, 11, 12-second index stuff was really, really popping. Um, Austin's Austin's passes during the week were definitely it was Azim Sheik that helped
Yeah.
Mike Mayon tape up the window. So Austin's passes were all in the low 14s all week. So it wasn't like he had one slow day that was way off. He earned his 14.133 average, which is still fast. Like I want people to understand. You see all these 7 to 8 second cars, and we talk about them all the time. But like that 14-second car has just as much struggle as everybody else.
Yeah.
What do we got here? I had to pull the track dryer with the Jimmy. Oh, for an hour. That was at that's Dan Chandler.
Yep.
Yeah, that was awesome. Seeing him at Heads Up Hustle. Yep, that was cool.
And then Ryan said it was a 736 on that pass at 194.
Yep. Yeah, that was pretty cool. And then like you said, Glenn ran, I think that was Glenn's first pass. I think he ran a 7.2 on Monday, and then right into Tuesday ran another 7.2. I mean, I think it was like one pass on Monday, and then that first pass on Tuesday was a 7.231, then a 7.3 or something like that. I can't remember after that. So I do want to ask the folks in the comments, what is your preference with Midwest Drags? There's no dedicated route set up. It's he has a route, so you have the track, you have the route stop, and then you get to the next track. So there's no, hey, go this way, turn here, all that kind of stuff. So do you prefer that? Do you want to have route instructions? Do you want to have maybe one route that everybody is given to kind of go along the route? So let us know what you think. I know what I think. We'll talk about it again probably this Saturday or maybe even next week.
Yeah, we had
Probably
that.
next week.
Yeah, we had that discussion in the car a little bit too. Just kind of trying to figure out what everybody thinks is the best. There's benefits to both, right? There's things that are good and bad about each one. So we're just trying to figure out, what everybody else likes.
Well, and again, like it's good for promoters to know that as well, because then, like with Hyde and the team at Midwest Drags, they don't like having a route, because then people can do their own thing. They can get their own hotels. They can figure their own stuff out. It's not like you got to go here and turn here and go here. So, and then other folks prefer that. Drag Week does it. Hey, these are your host hotels. These are where you're going to stay, all that kind of stuff. So thanks for everybody that'll let us know what they want to do with that. We talked earlier about the miles driven during our trip, because we both met in Indy and then jumped in an RV and drove it on out. So you said earlier you had driven 2,500 miles. and I figured it up. I had driven like 3,200 miles. So if I'd been a CDL driver, I'd actually made a little money last week. But I don't know if I could handle being on the road that much. So I want to say thank you to all the semi and logistics drivers out there. You guys are amazing. I don't know how you do it because I was ready to drive right over the top of people.
I'm still, my body is still feeling it today. Like even
Yeah.
sitting here right now, my shoulders, my
Yeah.
butt, everything is still just from sitting in a car. I think I calculated seat time was
Oh,
like
man.
45 hours for the
Yeah.
week. Like
Yeah. That's pretty intense. Now, a lot of that stuff we got driven around by Josh Castle, so that was kind of cool. Appreciate him doing that. And that dude's on vacation this week, so he went from work doing announcing to vacation. So I'm jealous of that guy. The states visited, I thought were pretty cool. So we did Illinois, obviously, which is where you live.
Yep.
I hit Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Delaware. We were in Delaware for 15 minutes.
Yeah, it was like 15 minutes. That was it.
Yeah.
We must have just cut through the corner.
Yep. So it's pretty cool. We got a lot of state signs as pictures as we just blasted right by them. So that was kind of cool. I see everybody saying one route. But before we bring John on, I want to thank you guys that are watching this. I want to thank our race car friends. That's what we're going to begin referring to you guys as our race car friends, and then all the sponsors that make this possible. Again, Summit Racing, Molly Motorsports North America, Howard's Cams, Sweet Patina, and Racing Junk Classifieds. Guys, they are making it possible for me to do this full time. And I certainly appreciate them for that. So without further ado, let's bring in John. He's been back here I told him it'd be like 15, 20 minutes to open the show. And then, I get a little wordy. I get to talking about stuff. So my timeline is never good with that stuff. Sir, how are you?
I'm good. How are y'all doing?
Are you bored
Good.
yet? You're tired of hearing me
I
talk?
I would have planned ahead a little further if I knew I was going to be 46 minutes, but it's all right.
Yeah, so about 20 minutes till 7, he goes, I'm going to jump in the shower. And about 3 minutes later, he was back. I was like, dude, you didn't have to rush. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Well, why don't you introduce yourself and then kind of lead us into what the car is. And then we're just going to start telling the story.
All right. I'm John Mankia from Hanover, Virginia, just like 45 minutes north of VMP. Got a 71 Camaro, turbo LS. That's the car. It's a 4L80. Everything about it I built, so it's not the prettiest, not the best, but it works.
Oh, dude, this will be the first time I've said that. It's one of my favorite cars of Drag and Drive. I love, like a satin black finish. That generation Camaro is my favorite. And I know you and I and Hyde had a conversation the other day on the phone about I don't know what he's going to call that award yet, but you inspired that team to bring a Spirit of Midwest Drags award into the future because of your thrash at Cecil. So congratulations on that. And because of that, he's giving you free entry into 2024's event, which is kind of cool too. So it's pretty awesome. And your co-pilot, Nick Thompson.
Yeah.
Thompson. Yep. Cool dude. Got to hang out with you guys for 12 minutes on Friday. We saw each other throughout the week, but I mean, not much. You guys were busy getting the car ready or getting it unready and getting it street ready. So,
So how much time we got?
Well, I do. We got all the time you want to talk about, man. I'm ready. So we talked about what the car is. Turbo LS 4L80. Your goal was to run some 850s that week. So I immediately think street race, small block power adder, but the car's a ladder bar setup, right?
Yeah. It's
Gotcha.
It's ladder bars. Unfortunately, I ditched the leaf springs a long time ago, and now it disqualifies me from all the classes that I'm competitive in. But
well,
all right.
Hey, that's the way it works sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe on the next one you can do some 850 racing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. So walk us through the week leading up to that. What kind of times were you running, and kind of get us to Cecil.
So came into the week hoping to run 850s. I've been 870, but never 850s. So that was the goal. Pretty much brand new 416 LS that I just got together a couple of weeks prior. Blew the head gaskets out of it and was a little worried and put a Holly Dominator on so I'd have some more data again. But I I didn't have much time on that new setup at this point. So I had it on the dyno the Saturday before Midwest, made 960 to the wheel, and it, I mean, everything was good. You know, tune was good. You know, plugs looked good. Everything about it was good. So I'm pretty confident we run 850s all week. I don't see why not. So bottom line, I, you know, worked on it all week, you know, leading up to Cecil, just working, trying to get it to launch. I couldn't get it to leave. I don't know if it was just a little more power than before, but I just could not get the suspension to work. So basically fought it all week, helped some people out where we could. I actually turned in 2 slips on Wednesday of just foot braking because I couldn't get the thing to leave. So I ran like 980 foot braking, and I was like, all right, well, that's pretty cool. I was still running my fastest mile per hour, 157 at that point.
Wow.
But it's, yeah, a foot brake in a turbo car is kind of like, all right, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Eric and I watched several of your passes from the tower, and it was like 4 in a row. You just blew the tires off.
Yeah, I made
can't imagine the struggle there.
Yeah, 7 passes on Monday, 3 passes Tuesday, 6 passes Wednesday, and then 4 passes Thursday. But
Yep. So you were 870s was your fastest stuff, right? Like 8.
Yeah, so
870s? Yeah.
870 was my fastest time from drag week 22, and I think I did sick week this year. Last day after, that was a long story too, but I welded the heads and everything and refinished them in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And I ran 870 Friday.
Yeah, when he says he refinished them, he meant with a grinder.
Yeah, a grinder, file, and like
that looks flat.
Stone. It worked.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, so fast forward to Cecil. First pass of the day, it's like nice and cool, and I was planning on just foot braking, just like get some 9 or 8 second passes to turn in. And I look at Nick, I'm like, man, this air feels good. It's like cool. It's like, man, let's just try one more time. So I ended up turning my launch RPM down a little bit just to make sure, but let go and it took off. So I went a 863. So that's my personal best, you know.
Yes.
First thing Thursday morning. Mile per hour is only like 154 though. So I was like,
wow.
You know, something's weird. Maybe it's the air or whatever. But to go right back up because everything's still pretty cool, and make 2 more 877 passes. And then so I'm confident, like, all right, well, let's turn this launch back up and see if we can, you know, get moving a little quicker. And that didn't make it.
it was the right decision, just not the right timing or something.
Yeah, me and Nick were talking. We're like, man, this is cool. Like, we're done early. You know, we can go. Yeah. We're gonna stop at the IUEC headquarters in like south of DC. We're both elevator constructors, so that was gonna be cool. We had this plan, and we're gonna get back to Richmond. Actually sleep that night.
Yeah.
And like 500 foot out, just sent the ride out the block. So there went that.
with complete disregard for your well-being the rest of the day. It was like, nope, I'm leaving right now. That was it was pretty crazy, but now there wasn't a huge mess or anything, right? I mean, those guys, like it was great. Like it was.
Yeah, so I had an engine diaper on it, and it didn't get the oil pan. I mean, it broke the oil pan internally, but not it didn't make any huge holes in it. So yeah, the engine diaper pretty much caught everything. When I was parked, there was a couple drips there, but yeah, they were back to racing before I even got back to the pit. So yeah, that was good to see.
Yep, that's awesome. So you get pulled back to the pits. Kind of walk us through the next. I mean, I don't know, hour or 2, something like that. Yeah.
So I mean, I've done crazy things to make it through drag and drives, before, but I was about like, I was like, all right, let's just chill and watch the rest of it. But this was Nick's first time, and he's I could tell he was like, man, we could fix it. So just in the back of my mind, I knew I had a stock 5.3 that I bought from someone on Facebook 3 years ago, sitting in the shop, and I kind of had an idea. I was like, man, I probably could get it back together, and so we're like, man, let's do it. So we ended up, David Fontaine's wife, Sandra, gave us a ride to Home Depot where we rented a truck. And, I was expecting to get back with the parts by like midnight or 2 o'clock. But let's see, we left we didn't get back to the house and down here in Hanover till like 5 p.m. So there went that.
Yeah.
And then by the time I dug, and it was funny, like an hour into the trip down here, I looked at Nick, I'm like, I don't know anything about this motor. Like, I just know that I have possession of it. That's all I know about it.
It was running when I pulled it.
Yeah. I mean, it had 80,000 miles on it, but like,
Yeah.
So, but fortunately, David stayed at the track and kind of tore the car down, and I'm really glad he did because he pulled the oil pan off, and that's the only reason I brought the spare oil pan because it is a LS3 oil pan, and it has like the little relief for the oil pressure for VOD, and it knocked that off. So without knowing that, I wouldn't have been able to make it.
Wow.
But yeah, basically, I grabbed all the parts. We 3.5 hours without traffic. Of course, we had to hit traffic, and then we had to go all over the place finding parts and gaskets and whatever.
Yep.
We get back to, let me see, it was like midnight or maybe later that we got back to Cecil with the parts. And
didn't you have to weld in a drain bung or something like that?
Yeah. So that was what I was saying. I was glad David, realized I needed the oil pan and realized also that I needed a turbo drain on it. So while I was at home, I was able to weld a bung in for that.
Wow.
So yeah, there was a lot of things worked out. I just put the Holley system in there. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to go to the 24 tooth reluctor motor because it was 58 in it. So there's a lot of things about it that just worked out. I just happened to have an LS2 intake, that would kind of make everything fit in the car. So everything really worked out. And obviously I couldn't have done it without him and Nick.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we get back, we get working on the motor. We got, some little lights, magnetic lights. And it was actually like getting daylight by the time we were about ready to put the new motor in the car. So it's like, sweet, we don't need these lights anymore. But of course, then reality sets in. You're like, man, this is not going well.
Because at this point, you've gone 3 days of a drag and drive. So you're already not getting any kind of sleep. You're already tired. And then now you've been up for 24 hours?
Yeah, 6 a.m. would have been 24 hours. That's when we got up, the previous day. So, yeah, it was getting rough. There was like a pile of Red Bull cans. But yeah, so we'll fast forward 9 a.m. We finally start the car for the first time. And it starts right up, but it's running like crap. And then, I had to do a little research on the, cam wiring, cam sensor wiring for 24 tooth motor. But ultimately, we got out of there at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I think, by the time we cleaned up and had the trailer packed back up.
Right. And I was going to say, you sent me a message. It was like 9 a.m. First fire, man, we got it. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. Go, man, go. And then 20 minutes later, it's like, I can't get the car to do anything.
Yeah.
No. Stop to get gas. Oh man, car won't start. Car won't do anything. So, and then that was the last time we talked. It was the last message you sent me. And so I'm like, hey man, you okay? Nothing. I run over to David. Hey, have you heard from him? He's like, no man, I hadn't. I'm like, oh God, please message me. See what's going on. Nothing.
Yeah, my phone quit charging. There's just too much stuff to worry about. It's like I just need to get going.
Yeah, you had to work. You didn't have. Who cares about texting Mike Narks? You know what I mean? We got to get there. We got to drive, man. That's cool.
Yeah, it wasn't personal, but
no. Hey, I didn't take it personally either.
But yeah, and then 5 minutes into the trip, we got at this point. Now we got to return the Home Depot truck, and then my alternator stops charging, and I didn't realize it till it was down to 8 volts, and my dash shuts out, and we pull over and put the jump box on it, and then my ECU is locked up. It won't connect to the computer, won't connect to the dash. So I'm freaking out. I get on the phone with Holley, and of course I'm on hold forever. And ultimately I was able to reflash the firmware to it, and it came back to life. So that worked out. 20 minutes down the road to the next AutoZone, riding on the jump box. It was dead by the time we get there, but I got burns all over my arms from, swapping that out, but got the new alternator on it. And y'all know the rest of the story. Showed up 6:30. I think we finally got back to Dinwiddie.
Yeah. And you guys come in, we're doing the award show. I had missed, so Nick and I weren't friends on Facebook, so I had missed his message to me, I guess probably as you guys were driving. That was like, hey, we're going to be there right about 6:30. And I'm just up there talking, chit-chatting, and then I see the car pull by. I was like, oh, man, here we go. So It was really cool to see you guys pull in. That was pretty awesome. So the drive from Cecil to VMP, I mean, nothing was weird after you got kind of that little bit of a little sorting done.
Yeah, well, like I said, once I got the alternator replaced, everything was
Mhm.
good except for I had several hundred more pounds in my trailer than I normally do, so I was trying to keep it slow a little bit,
Yeah.
But yeah, we hit the checkpoint because if we made it, I wanted to make sure we made it. But
Yep. Oh yeah.
but
What
yeah,
so what's your where did you get the cherry picker or whatever that you guys used? Was it the tracks or was it
no,
someone?
it was one of my friends like around here has been trying to give it to me for months, and it was just like happened to work out. So yeah, we brought that up with us.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I guess we used the rental truck for that at that point.
Wow.
But we brought it back.
Dude,
At this point, I had the motor and the engine hoist on my little mini trailer coming back.
that's awesome. That's awesome. And then one other question I got for you. Have you wrenched on the car since being home?
No.
I hadn't even touched it.
No, not at all.
I don't blame you.
We pulled the junk motor off the trailer, just to put it on a stand and kind of look at it a little bit, but I haven't even opened that up. It's just kind of disgusting. I just got that motor together and I was so confident. So
Dang.
yeah, I got to get ready for drag week now, but
Yep.
I'm not going to do a whole lot to the car.
So will you run the stock bottom end setup and just move some cam and valve springs and things like that over?
Yeah, I'm going to try to salvage the cam and valve springs out of the 416. I think I'm going to go ahead and put half-inch. Yeah, there it is. Put half-inch head studs in it and just gap the rings and roll the stock bottom in. See what I can do on the 85.
Yeah, I don't blame you, man. That sounds cool. Well, dude, I definitely want to say thanks again for one, the enjoyment of watching all that, and then two, for you coming on here telling the story. So your next event is Drag Week then. So that's the plan.
Yep.
Dude, that's cool, man. I know I'll see you there. I'm excited to see that. Yeah, it put a good hole in it.
Yeah.
Right there. Dang it.
Yeah.
And then that was you breaking the beams. That was, obviously one of the biggest things. I mean, if you're going to do it, you gotta complete it. So that was really cool.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you having me.
Hey, dude, thanks a bunch. We'll see you soon.
All right, man. Thanks.
So
Later.
yeah.
Man, what a cool story. And
Yeah.
it goes back. I say this all the time, but there's not a lot of times where you're going to remember that that an event went smooth. Oh man, it went smooth. It was easy. Oh, no big deal. Whatever, So having struggles is part of drag and drive. We all know that. I do want to say that everybody catch the engine diaper part in there. Save the day for all the other racers. We were really running into some heat throughout the day, and being down an hour to clean up an oil spill would have hurt everybody's chances, to make passes. So having engine diapers is a huge win on that. Let's talk about, we're probably going to skip our next topic, which is we may move Street Week Sweden down because we've got some guests in the back, so I want to go ahead and get to them. I do want to give a social media update from our work at Midwest Drags. We saved the day on the live stream. I just want to say that it was completely by accident. Truly, there was no live stream going on. They were having struggles, and so we jumped on live on our channels. And then the Midwest Drags team came up and was like, "Hey, help us!" So we added the Midwest Drags Facebook page to our live stream stuff, so it allowed people at home to watch. So we did that, and then that ended up they were able to do that for the next 3 days with very, very spotty service. So it was a struggle all week for them. I was just glad that we were able to help them on Tuesday, and then we absolutely got to work during
did.
We posted 52 videos to YouTube. We got more than 100,000 video views during the week, 240 plus subscribers. Instagram, we gained 407 followers, which I felt like was a big deal. 48 posts were made during the week, and then Facebook 300 plus, and another 31 posts made during the week. So us working together really allowed, I'll be honest, Eric did most of that posting. It allowed me the opportunity to go talk to racers, carry the big camera around, get big shots that I can work on now that I'm at the house. So that's what this week was supposed to be. And then I spent most of the day today writing notes for this. So I want to bring on the guys from Heads Up Hustle. If you guys haven't heard, it was really kind of the first of its kind for a regional drag and drive for sure. So we're going to have John Paul Franks on, and the overall event winner, Carl Balzer on to discuss the event and the fun they had. Now, if you don't know who Carl is, he's a longtime friend of the Narcoleptic channel and has been watching Drag and Drive for a long time. John Paul's the same way. He actually came to the circuit back in April and had intended to race, but the car just wasn't ready yet. And then, guys, I just want to say this before they get on because it's going to embarrass them. The content creation during Heads Up Hustle for all the stuff was awesome. I don't know who he had to do that. We're going to talk about that here in a minute, but it was great to see all of the shots, all the videos and things like that they took. So let's bring John Paul on first. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Oh man, I'm excited to do this, man. It's going to be fun. You had a great event, a lot of cool racers, a lot of cool cars, and tons of really neat stuff. I'll say that a lot of really neat cars, a lot of really good stories are going to come from that event, and a lot of definitely future Drag and Drive racers. So, kind of tell us who you are. Obviously, some of the events you've competed in, and then the car you typically race.
Yeah, so my name is John Paul Franks. I'm from Central Indiana, and I normally race the 88 Fox Body Mustang with a small block Ford naturally aspirated setup. My first Drag and Drive was Sick Week in 2022, the inaugural Sick Week. I didn't win anything, but I was second in naturally aspirated small block, but there's no awards given out for
Nice.
Obviously, Jason Tapscott had to
Yeah.
he had to beat me pretty good there. So
Yeah.
I was going to do Rocky Mountain Race Week in 2021, but got COVID and wasn't able to do that. So
Dang.
we ended up doing Sick Week instead, which was fun.
Yep.
I was going to be, like you mentioned, at your race, the circuit, but we were doing some engine stuff and didn't get it back together in time. So
Yeah, and I think you had told me there it would have been a huge thrash to get it done. And man, we know how thrashes work. When you're thrashing to get a car ready, and there's no time for testing and driving around, it's almost too hard to come compete.
Yeah, it was a big thrash. We had the motor in the car to test fitment because the port height on the exhaust was different because of different heads. We had it out of the car, and then we got it on the engine dyno, and we tore up a rod bearing on the engine dyno. So then
Dang.
that was with like 12 hours to leave, and we threw the towel in.
Yeah, like no, please no. Well, before we bring Carl on, can you kind of give us the format of the event, and then we'll talk about some of it, and then we'll bring him on to obviously talk about all the stuff.
Sure. Yeah. So Heads Up Hustle, we did try to do a eliminations and then qualifying style Drag and Drive. So similar to how a large Heads Up race would be run, whether it's an NHRA race or a big radial race. So the idea is that we have day 1 and 2 where you go qualify, we average those together, and then we set elimination ladders based on that. So
Nice.
At the end of the day, to win, you have to beat the guy next to you. You have to not red light. You have to, have your tune-up on point to win the race you're in.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you feel like it worked? Did it work well? Did people enjoy it like you thought they would?
I think so. We had a lot of good feedback. Most people, even if let's say you were in Daily Driver, which had 10 cars in it, and you went out first round, you still had an opportunity to make multiple passes on Friday, multiple passes on Saturday, and multiple passes on the last day before, by eliminations. Everyone got a test hit Sunday morning before eliminations. So even if you did go out first round, you still had a lot of time to have fun and go hang out with your race car friends.
Right. So would they submit their time that they wanted to turn in for their qualifying? Is that how that would work?
Yeah, just like most Drag and Drives, they have to bring their time slip to us and submit it, and then we put everything in an Excel spreadsheet and did it from there.
That's awesome. Well, which tracks did you guys visit? And then let's talk about some classes.
Yeah, so Milan Dragway was our home track. That's I race there a lot. It's not necessarily my home track, but it's I race there the most. Many tracks. Cool. I have the class for my naturally aspirated small block car there. And then we drove up to Lapeer, Michigan, and we went to Lapeer International Dragway up there. And we were like 5 to 10 minutes from having a rain out there when we got a break in the weather and got dry on the track, and we got the track dried and prepped and got everything done we rained all 3 days, but we didn't have a rain out. So
that's great. Well, we saw Dan Chandler making comments earlier talking about pulling the jet dryer for like an hour in one of the race cars. He's got a square body GMC Jimmy, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, he was a great person to have there. And yeah, the track's golf cart they normally pull the blower with, it went down, and we're like, hey, you want to pull? He's like, sure, we'll do it. It's a street
Hook it
truck.
up. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I can idle no problem. And I'm sure he's just making laps down there. So that's pretty fun. Well, Carl was one of the winners. He was the overall guy as well. So we're gonna bring him on. But some of the other class winners that you wanna shout out to?
Yeah, so I want to shout out to Joshua Burt. He's been at Midwest Drags in the past. He won Daily Driver, and Aaron Roberts in the Blue Mustang. He was a runner-up in Daily Driver.
Nice.
And then in small tire, we had TJ Linebaugh. He won, and the runner-up in that class was Matt Wilson with a both cool cars. TJ's wagon, the Wonder Wagon, it's pretty sweet, like a 90-some millimeter turbo LS and old wagon. We had a full-size truck class, and Shane Malley won that with a supercharged Coyote 10-speed, sort of late model drivetrain, four-wheel drive, sweet truck. Dan Chandler and the square body Jimmy came in, had a runner-up in that class. And National Aspirated Small Block, we had Derek Adams win that class, and Joe. I can't pronounce his name correctly, but DiGiovanni, I believe, is how you say that.
Nice.
So he was the runner-up in National Aspirated Small Block. Carl Balzer, who we'll have here, I guess you're having on as well, he won stick shift, and the runner-up was Rex French. Open comp was Nathaniel Darnell. Runner-up Anthony Churchwell, and we had Greg Furchak in motorcycle, the winner.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, let's bring Carl on because, like I said, he's been a long time friend of the channel and brands, and we actually met him at, well, I'll tell the story. He was nice enough to let us park with him at Cletus and Cars Indy way back when. What was that, 2021, dude?
I think so.
Yeah. 2021 or 2020. No, it wasn't 2020, but yeah, 2021 is when it was.
Yeah, it was a good time. I feel like that was 10 years ago now.
Yeah, it was a long time.
I mean, we drove the NARCS cart up from Arkansas to Indianapolis. We end up in the grass parking, and I ran up and I was like, "Please, can we park by you?" He's like, "Hey, man, come on up." So we had two carts right next to each other. It was really cool. So why don't you introduce yourself? Obviously, Hidden Motorsports is your brand, and then tell us about Klaus the Barbarian.
Yeah, I'm Carl Balzer, one of the owners for Hidden Motorsports. We got a nice shop out here in Toledo, Ohio, and hopefully the quality and you can hear me fine. All of a sudden, we lost Wi-Fi at 9 o'clock because there was a scheduled maintenance at 9 o'clock. And I'm like, that would happen. So I have it pulled up on my phone right now. So hopefully everything's pretty well.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been around for about 6-7 years now. Just kind of actually started off in home garages, messing around with BMWs and Europeans, working on them ourselves. And then that sprawled to the LS world and kept going from there. And Klaus is my 95 BMW 325i. Now, it started off as a two-door coupe, and then we took some Sawzalls to it. Maybe had a couple of drinks while we were doing it. We just kept chopping it all up, adding an exo cage on it, and it was supposed to be a $2,000 to $5,000 budget eBay junkyard build, meant to thrash around off-road and just do whatever you want to do with it, but that spiraled hard.
Yeah, I would say so. I'm going to pull it up here, Eric. This car is definitely a spiral out of control, and I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's a pretty fun car.
Let me see. I'm going to pull it. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get it up here. Yeah. Absolutely intense.
Oh, yeah,
and what's the car make now? Like 1,200 or something like that?
Quite a bit more, actually. So when it was a 5.3 with just a Texas Speed rods and pistons, it made 1,150 wheel horsepower. And then we did a full Texas Speed short block 6.0, and that actually recently, right before Indy, made 1,415 horsepower. And now, because I've been saying we've gone through like 4 engines, because if you realize these Cletus and Cars burnout comps and everything else that we do with the car just beats the crap out of it. So I was like, if it ever lets go again or something happens, I'm just going to get a 427. And that's actually what we finished up about 2 weeks ago. literally the week of the Drag and Drive event, we were still tuning it and getting it ready and started. So now we actually didn't even get a chance to put it on the dyno. We just had to like street tune it. And on the lowest setting, it's around 1,100 horsepower. And it's really fun to street tune at that power level.
I can only imagine. And still a stick shift car?
Oh, absolutely. It was original, just a T56 Magnum. And now we actually are partnered with Granis Racing, and we have a billet T56 Magnum with carbon blockers, billet gears, billet front plate, pump, sprayers, everything in it.
Dude, that's awesome. All right, well, let's talk about Heads Up Hustle, because the reason you haven't been on here before is because you had not competed in the Drag and Drive. You've actually been on the Narcoleptic podcast at least once, and at one point carried the show for 20 minutes while my internet went out in the shop. So appreciate that. You guys will have to go back and find that on Narcoleptic Customs. So guys, let's talk about like route stops and kind of some, your favorite cars, all that kind of stuff. So let's start with route stops. Where did you guys stop on this event?
Well, I believe our first stop was it the Performance Shop, I believe?
Yeah, it was LaFontaine Performance.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one. Friday was kind of a blur to us because we went into this event really thinking the car wasn't going to make it 10 miles past Milan at all. And as soon as we left Milan, we actually got caught in what started as a tornado. We have it all on video. It was torrential thunderstorms, blinding wind. We couldn't see anything. And that lasted for about 10 minutes. It was a nightmare, but fun. We're like sitting there laughing, crying, screaming while this is happening. Like literally branches flying by us through the car. I'm like, this was fun.
Nice. That's good for you. That's good for you, right?
Oh yeah. It started it off the trip right.
And then where else did you guys stop? Did you stop on the way back somewhere?
Yes, we had two stops. High Octane Cafe is actually a fellow racer, Tom Llewellyn, him and his wife run that. Yep. And beautiful little cafe with great food. And then he also stopped at the Roush Automotive Collection, saw some really cool, collection of Jack Roush's cars there.
That's cool. That's I would think a great area of the country for that kind of stuff, because you're obviously right around Detroit. So did you guys have a dedicated route?
We did. It was optional. I'm not sure. Carlo, did you guys drive most of the route or?
Yeah, actually we did. We had to pull off from the route a little bit because the car runs on E85 and it's not everywhere, but it's usually close. And then we circled right back to the route map, and we actually put our phone navigation away. And my navigator, Chris, I was like, hold that paper. We're going to do it old-fashioned MapQuest way, and we're going to do it just straight off the paper, no other help.
That's awesome. For all you youngsters out there, MapQuest used to print off directions like the way we do with Drag and Drive directions now. That was how it was done. You just printed off 4 pages of it, and you hope you got it right.
Yeah, we hoped we got it right. We tested it, but I guess it was okay because most people made it back.
Yep,
that's awesome. Yeah, so I kind of feel like with regional events, you don't have to be a Nazi about the directions. Kind of, hey, this is you. Here's the route we suggest. We'd love for everybody to take it, but if you get turned off of a different spot, you don't. It's not like, oh man, I've got to go all the way back now. I think that's probably the best way to handle regional events.
It seemed to work fairly well. We had people love the event, so hopefully we can improve it for next year. We sure made some mistakes here and there, but we'll try to learn from them.
I thought it was a phenomenal event. Best Drag and Drive I've ever went to.
I appreciate that.
That's right. I
just thought it was cool. You guys drove a car with no doors, no roof, and barely a windshield through a tornado. Basically, you guys were like wet dogs when you got to the hotel that evening. You're just it was straight and got cleaned up.
Oh yeah, it was not fun, but it was fun just rolling 4 deep with 3 other of your best friends, hauling a beer draft concession trailer from Ernest Brewworks. The trailer alone weighs about 1,800 pounds, and we probably put about another 500 pounds in it. So this car towed almost 2,500 pounds plus 4 200-pound dudes running consistent low 9-second passes on our lowest power setting.
Wow. That's pretty awesome.
So who was all with you on the trip?
We had myself, and then we had Chris Brinkman, and then we had my media guys. We had Hallie, and then we had Ethan as well. So you've seen them. They're on the YouTube channel if you guys watch that occasionally.
Yeah. Hidden Motorsports.
Absolutely. It's fun. And we're going to try something on this one. So we normally just post like the daily vids if we're doing an event. We're going to try to do like a movie style setup, like a 40-minute long, like cinematic look to document the entire trip and the event. So we're going to try our hand at that and see how that plays out and see how well accepted it is.
Yeah,
that should be cool.
I think with what Sick is doing with their Sick the movie stuff, I think it works. I think people that way they can sit down. It may take them 2 or 3 times to get through it, before they can watch the whole thing. But I think that's probably a great way to test the waters. And 5 years from now, when you look back, it's one video. It's not the whole 70 videos on a playlist you're putting together. So it's a good idea.
Absolutely, it's fun.
So was there any crazy repair stories or any carnage throughout the week?
We did have some. I think Carl, you had a relay for your fuel pump that all the water in your car messed up.
We thought it was actually because we have 2 big fuel pumps, and I thought just one of them failed. We switch around the power wires because the other one doesn't come on until you're about 1,200 horsepower. I was like, we don't need that. We'll swap it around. It's doing the same thing, and I hear the relay clicking. So we took it apart, put it back in. It's still doing the same thing. I was just like, this stupid thing. I just picked it up and started beating it, and it worked great the whole rest of the weekend.
That is typically the first way to try and fix something.
Yep, we just hit it.
Especially when it's on like a fuel pump.
Oh, yeah. After that, everything worked fine. We didn't have any ourselves. We didn't have any breakdowns until the celebration at the end. Then we had a slight mishap.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that in just a second for sure. How about some of your favorite cars of the event? Both you guys, stuff that you saw that you liked.
My favorite car was Sean Dixon's. It was what year is it? It's a '58 Ford Ranchero gasser, big lifted front end, straight axle, like candy paint, red candy paint, like beautiful car.
It was.
And that was that's the biggest carnage we had. Also, he had a rocker break in half. It's a Ford FE motor, big block Ford, and he had a rocker just completely snap. And fortunately, he was able to, take the rocker off, take the spark plug out, and we heard him like a mile away with the spark plug out, running on 7 cylinders, coming to the hotel.
Yeah.
And they got to the hotel and just parked it for the night. And in the morning, they took it apart, and there was all the push rods on that side were tore up. There was oiling issues. So he unfortunately didn't finish, but that was my like coolest like car. I just think that vintage gasser style is really neat.
Yeah, that was actually my favorite car as well. But then my second favorite was, I don't remember gentleman's name. I only think we waved, but he was in our class at stick shift. He had the white Cobra Jet that was running like mid-5s. He's done multiple drag and drive event or multiple 8.5s. I forgot his name.
Tyler Garlock, yeah.
Yes, that car was nasty. Going off the line, like we're changing tires. I'm like, what is that going down the track?
He trapped over 170 on his first run.
Yep. And that's set the mood for us because we're just unloading in the morning. He's making passes running 8s at 170. We're like, well, we don't have a chance, but let's just go out there and have fun. That's something we also did too, is since the motor had 30 miles on it, purposely did not fill our CO2 boost bottle. So that way we did not hurt it. It ran on 10 pounds the whole weekend. I'm like, this way we will not turn it up and hurt it.
Dude, how hard was that when you got back to the track on it was Sunday, right? Your last day was Sunday?
Yep.
Yeah. How hard was that?
Oh, I wanted to because Sunday I
was telling him where we could get CO2 filled.
I know. There's all this peer pressure everywhere coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just tried to. Actually, the whole weekend, we didn't even use two-step. We were just rolling out of the line, running like 9.5s. And then Sunday, I was like, okay, we made it. Everything's holding up. Well, let's just try a little launching off a two-step, and instantly took, over 0.3 of a second off and got us down to 9.2. And I looked at the log. I was like, oh, man, it made so much boost. And the log just said -1 instead of normally -10. I was like, oh, well, then this car is going to be an animal once we're at 25 pounds of boost and leaving at like 6 or 7 pounds of boost.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what rear axle do you have in that car?
It's actually your stock BMW 740i large case diff. Nothing is. Yep, good old Lincoln locker that I put in it. Put some metal plates in, welded it all up, and that's been the same diff that's been in the car for 3 years.
Wow. And then who does your axles?
Axles, we got Seems Legit Garage, and what they do is they partnered up with G-Force axles, so they gave them their specs, and then G-Force makes them to the specs.
How cool, man.
They said unbreakable, and I'm like, I will be testing that.
Yeah, I mean, you're leaving on 6 or 7 pounds. I can imagine the struggle that car has. Well, let's talk about this wild celebration you hinted at earlier.
It was actually kind of like the second wild celebration, because I'm all for, this car gets daily driven. It goes to multiple like 2 and 3 day drift events every year, probably 6 or 7 burnout comps and tons of drag racing. So Friday at like 4, as we were packing up, Milan was doing a slide event or skid event. I haven't heard about it before, but they did this event in their concrete pad. It's just kind of like the takeover stuff, but legal, where you can do burnouts, sliding, and all this. I'm like, this is what I'm really good at. So we changed a set of tires that we had in the race trailer, put them on, and drifted and just basically did our own little burnout contest for about 2 minutes, popped both tires, picked up the pieces, swapped, put on the road tires, and then drove 150 miles or something like that north. Then on Sunday after winning, they had another skid event. So we did it then. And we took like their promoter, the announcer, I forgot his name. We took him for the joyride. What was that again?
It's Little Carter.
Little Carter. Yes. He got in, he was in the passenger seat, and we took him drifting. And then minute and a half into it, I start sliding around, the car's like looping. I'm like, what is going on? And then I guess everyone's waving their hands. The control arm mount got ripped out of the unibody, like just completely. It didn't like the abuse. And I'm like, that would have sucked if that happened at 150 miles per hour. So it's kind of a good thing.
Have done that at 150 going straight.
That's true. But yeah, after more looking into it, the mount is attached to the body by, it looked like 2 1-inch welds. So we're going to replate both sides and strengthen it up pretty well.
Dude, I knew I liked you. I knew I liked you from the very beginning.
No, they're race cars. They're meant to be beat up. That's just kind of how I am too. Like, no disrespect to any, like the hardcore drag racers, it's their race car, but I respect someone that can drive. It can do more. It's not just a one-trick pony. It can do more stuff. It can do burnouts. It can do drifting. It can do daily driving. That's what I like, doing everything.
Well, and I mean, that's what Klaus is. And some of the other stuff you guys built has been that same style. I mean, obviously the other cars aren't as visually wild, but as performance-wise, I mean, dude, they're awesome too. It's a fun channel to watch is what I'm telling everybody.
Yeah, we just have a lot of fun. Just started off as a bunch of guys in the garage, and we still have that same attitude. We just like to goof around and have fun. There's times we just throw nitrous on mini bikes just because, and we'll see what happens.
That's awesome.
Are there any sponsors you want to give shout outs to?
Oh, there's tons. Yeah, I made a big, huge post, and I actually had to sit down for a while, remember, because there's so many companies and people that have partnered with us over the years that helped us out. The main ones have always been Ernest Brewworks, Texas Speed and Performance, Granis Racing, X Clutch USA, and Motion Raceworks have said that. And then I have to plug our charity. It's Skids for Kids USA. If you guys have seen that around, we raise money and toys for the local children's hospital wherever we go. It's a great thing to get involved with, and so you're doing it for the kids. Like, that's something we say all the time. Like, even before I met Andrew and the rest of the Skids for Kids, we had like a hashtag saying "Do it for the kids," because at the Clears events, most car shows, people say, "Look, but don't touch, don't do this." Before events, I'm literally letting 4, 5, 7-year-old kids sit in the driver's seat, hit the start button, hit 2-step on the car. And people are like, "Are you crazy?" I'm like, our sport, like it or not, is dying. And if you don't get these kids excited about loud engines and gasoline, it's going to disappear. So that's why I let them. Yeah, it's probably not the best on the car, but those kids, like, I literally get mails and emails from like 3 years ago. You let us start up the car and do this. We haven't forgot it. We love you. And I'm like, that's awesome.
That's
there's
cool.
all kinds of fun stuff.
John, do you have any sponsors you want to shout out?
Yeah, we want to thank AFCO Racing Shocks and Cooling. They're a big sponsor for us. Also, GT Performance Turbos. This neighbor of mine who builds performance racing turbos, and Motor City Muscle Challenge. It's actually it's the series I race in at Milan. It's a naturally aspirated 9-inch tire heads up class. So those are our sponsors for the event this year, and hopefully, we can bring some value to them and grow their brand as well.
Yeah, for sure. We appreciate, obviously, the sponsors being part of any kind of car stuff. That helps all of us, do what we want to do and grow and stuff. Let's start with John, though. What did you learn from this event that you're going to take into like the 2024 event? And then we'll move to Carl and ask kind of how this event will change your next event that's coming up.
Well, I guess the biggest thing I learned is you think you get everything prepared and it's not. So you got to learn to be flexible and, try to just overcome the challenges that come up. The other big thing is I was just reminded by when you have quality people who help you, you can just rely on them. And I'm so thankful for Rick Dodge doing my tech. He was amazing. For Thomas Robb, one of my best friends, and he helped me put the event on. And then the McKenna family, they killed it on social media. And then Brian, he's the father for that family. He did amazing work with the spreadsheets and keeping tabs of everything timing related. So surround yourself with people who know what they're doing. And that I guess that's more what I learned was that, that's important. And it really, without them, it wouldn't have happened.
Right. And let's stay on the social media real quick, because the Heads Up Hustle Instagram for sure is what I saw the most of on my feed. The quality of stuff that you guys put out and the consistency you put out was really, on par with any other event that I've ever seen, and probably more than anything I've seen, to be honest. It was,
wow.
It was really
that's
impressive.
all due to Asher and Ezra McKenna. They're actually neighbors and friends of mine, and that's what they do for work. But they said, "Hey, we'll come out," and I hired them to help me do my social media. And
that's great.
We had a mistake. The Instagram setting where you share everything from Instagram over to Facebook, somehow during the middle of the event, it got turned off. So
that would be why I saw more on Instagram.
I'm gonna have to go back and repost that stuff to Facebook. So
yeah, the media team was great. Some of the videos and reels that they made, I was like, man, you make me look good. I like this.
Yeah, high quality stuff. That's cool. So make sure you're, for all the folks that are watching this, make sure you're watching Heads Up Hustle and following them on all social media.
Yep.
And then Carl, what'd you learn? Because you've got an event coming up that we'll talk about here in a second too. So what'd you learn that you're going to take from here into the event you're going to host?
Oh, for event hosting, I did kind of like everything. Like, it was so well ran. You would have think that this event's been going on like it was its 20th consecutive year or something. Like, it was just so well ran. Nothing. We had not one single complaint, because I host a lot of events too. So, we all do it. Sometimes you get a little nitpicky. You're like, oh, I would have done this better or this. But no, everything I felt was really great. I had no complaints and like no other input. At the end, John was asked, he's like, hey, what could we change? What could we do? I was like, honestly, nothing. Do the same thing again.
That's great. That's great.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
What did you learn from a competitor standpoint that you'll use on your next event?
Honestly, from like the big people in our class that broke and stuff, they all had their cars on full kill and on the limit. And I kind of went in like, well, it's not a sprint race. It's a rally. We're driving hundreds of miles. So if I built my car to be this much, I should probably back it down to make sure it lasts for the whole weekend. And I guess that paid off and worked for us. So that's probably what we'll do. Plus, we don't have the money to rebuild a motor every other week.
That is true. I can understand that. Well, I definitely want to say thank you to John Paul for coming on and talking about the event. This won't be the last time you're on, obviously talking about this, because, am I right in saying that this is going to happen in 2024?
Yes, it's possible we'll be back in 2024.
That is
most
great.
likely at Milan Dragway and another track as well.
Oh, perfect, man. That's awesome. It's always good for folks to have that opportunity to race at tracks they've never been to. And then Carl, let's talk about the event you're hosting here in just a couple weeks. Kind of give us a rundown of it and the name and where people can find all that info.
Yeah, it's called No Half Cents 2023. You can find it on Facebook and also thefote.com, which I'm sure most everyone watching or all these racers know what the Fote is. That's the website that we can sell the tickets. So we did it in 2020 at Norwalk at the very end. And so it's kind of like a 6-hour test and tune. So we have Summit Motorsports Park, Norwalk, Ohio. We have the track the entire day. We have about 6 hours of hot time. So it's about 5 hours of test and tune. We're also going to have roll racing mixed in with it, Power Wheels racing, pit bike racing, lots of stuff for kids. 10 Scale Garage is hosting an RC drift event, like with the little RC things. It's completely crazy. It's so sweet. And then their speed shop, our local speed shop, is sponsoring a StreetCar Shootout. And it's basically $1,000 to the winner, quick 8 shootout, or whoever wants to sign up. We're going to do it's either 8 or 16. $1,000 for the winner. And streetcar. People are like, what do you mean a streetcar? Like, is your car a streetcar? I'm like, I can officially say I'm a certified streetcar now.
That's right.
I try to tell everyone, I'm like, the drag and drive rules, license, insurance, registration. They're like, well, how do you know this? I'm like, can your car comfortably drive 40 miles? Well, no, my car will overheat in 10 miles. I'm like, well, then it's not really a street car then, is it?
Yeah. My brother calls those town cars.
Yeah, you can't. You're running on full meth all the time, and you have a 5-gallon fuel cell and no radiator. I'm like, you don't have a street car anymore. As much as you want to, you just don't. But it's just like a nice family-friendly event. And the last time that we hosted it, we got so many good compliments about it. People were kind of mad because last year we couldn't do it because with the staffing issues due to COVID still, they couldn't host another private rental for us. So we couldn't do it, but then this year we were able to secure it. It was actually back in May is when it was supposed to be, but it was completely thunderstorms the whole weekend. So it's scheduled for August 20th now. It's $140 to race and $15 to watch, and it's all day fun. There's going to be food trucks, merch trailers. Can't announce it because they asked me not to announce, but there's going to be some faces that people recognize in the YouTube world that are going to be there, but they didn't want me to advertise it. So they're going to show up. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And like my hopes are, as this keeps going, I really want to host, call it or something like the Exo Kart Nationals at the event. I want all the fastest Exo cars. So, if you know anyone like with a Crown Vic or something like that.
Hey, listen, it'll straight up run some 13.
Yeah. I want them all to show up and we'll prove the fastest Exo cars in the world. I mean, just, another fun thing to do.
Yeah. Yep. That's right. Well, if we still have the car, we'll definitely be there. And, if we don't, we'll make the new owner bring it up. So
absolutely. It's just a gigantic fun event. The rules, like the roll racing, everything, it's fixed rules, but it's one of those things like if some people are not interested in this stuff, I'm like, hey guys, I'm open. Let's start doing this and do different things. It's gonna be a fun time. The last event, there's also a video on our YouTube channel from the last event, so you can see an example of what the event's like, and it's just a blast. And it's Norwalk, like that's my hometown, that's where I'm from, and I call that track an elite track because it is top notch. It's great. I love that track.
That's awesome. Well, guys, thank you very much again. I appreciate it very much. You guys coming on, spending some time with us tonight, talking about events. This is, again, there have been 17 Drag and Drive events this year already. There was 11 total last year, and there's already been 17, and you guys are a big part of one. So that's always a huge win for the community. So again, thanks a bunch for coming on. We've got Kyle Beaumont in the background, who he is part of the Stroll part of the Central Illinois Streetcar Shootout and Stroll. Is there a link? Yeah, Carl, can you drop the Hidden Motorsports link in the chat? That'd be awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, thank you. We'll see you later.
See y'all.
Bye.
Dude, I like those guys a bunch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, John Paul drove all the way down here to attend the circuit, knew he wasn't going to race. And so, it was really cool for him to come down, and we got to talk about the event and stuff. And I hope we can help promote it next year. Once we get a date lined out on that, we'll start sharing it as much as possible. He's a great dude.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's move on. All right. You want to do this next part, and I'll start getting stuff ready for Kyle.
Yep. So before we talk about our next event, we want to say thank you to our race car friends and sponsors that make this all possible. Summit Racing, Molly Motorsports North America, Howard's Cam, Sweet Patina, and Racing Junk Classifieds.
All right, guys, I just want to say, make sure you hit the share button as we add Kyle Beaumont in here to the conversation. He is a multi-time drag and drive racer, obviously good friends of the channel, but also he is the fastest 8th mile racer at the circuit. So he gets to be on the shirt for 2024.
That's right.
And I haven't told him this yet, but he's getting free entry in that year for also being on the shirt as well. So kind of exciting news. We got a lot of stuff that's coming up on the circuit updates that we'll keep you guys updated on. So anyways, dude, I'm excited you're here. If folks don't know, they can see the car over your right shoulder. What color blue is that?
Yeah. It's Grabber Blue. It's actually Ford Grabber Blue. It just has a matte finish on it.
Well, it looks
not wrapped, right?
Oh, it's not. It's a paint
or dipped. That's the Instagram name is not _ dipped is the Instagram name for the car.
Nice,
so, yeah.
Nice. So it is a paint then. It's not like a
yeah.
Oh, wow.
I cleared it back in 2012. Yeah.
Wow. Well, dude, it's held up well. Yeah, that car has a ton of street miles on it, and that's why you're here today because you hosted What I love about and I'm going to ask you about the format here in a minute, but you basically I'm not going to say piggybacked, but you added a class to an already StreetCar shootout style event. So tell us about this. Tell us how all that went down.
Correct. So this was kind of an idea that actually me and you talked about a year ago. And we were, I was getting ready to go to Street and Yeet. It was a new one. We were like, we could probably do something next year with a, local thing that runs possibly. And I got asked by a gentleman by the name of Joe Lay, who runs the Central Illinois StreetCar Shootout series, which is like a 3 or 4 race series in Central Illinois, Cordova, area. They change tracks a little bit. And they do this series every year. It's heads up 275 stuff. And he was like, I'd like to add a drag and drive portion to our street to to encourage the cars to be street, right? And more streetable.
Yep. So we've been on that route where you say StreetCar Shootout and then there's we don't really headlights.
Yeah. There's some street cars at this event for sure. And I said, yeah, I'd love to do it, and that's when we started talking more about, maybe we could add drag and drive to pre-existing events, streetcar takeovers, where there's already a class, there's already rules. You just drive to a certain place, come back. It's a 2-day event, right? So that's kind of what we tried with this. And it's exciting. I think, it worked okay, but it didn't require a ton of logistics because you're already adding to something that exists, right? I'm my time's limited, right? So I don't, full-time shop owner, tuner, welder, fabricator, kids, 2 kids, 4 and 6, heads up racer, and 7-second capable drag and drive guy. Like I don't have time to put on, this 300 person event, right? So. So we were trying to do something that, took a little bit of logistics, but could still add, a drag and drive feel to something with these heads up guys are doing. So,
and so the shootout was already a 2-day event, right? Like you kind of qualify on Friday and then race on Saturday, right?
So usually it's like a test and tune, right?
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay.
One place where it's a test and tune, and then you go to a different track and you do the heads up. Yeah.
Makes sense.
But we just made it so that way the first day test and tune which is at Cordova. That's where it was at, was a test and tune for 2 or 3 hours. You make the fastest pass you can. That would make a ladder, right?
Yep.
For the next day for the heads up shootout. And the heads up shootout was in Havana, Illinois at CID. And but the problem with that was we had rain come about 8 minutes into the track going live. And I sent you that picture of,
torrential
rolling in. I was like, you got to be kidding me, this is wild. So everybody was stoked for tech. We had some really quick cars on the property, looking to see a handful of bottom 5-6 second passes at the slowest, right? So some fast cars, and everybody tries to get down the track, and and it was kind of a spin fest at first anyways. The track hadn't come around yet, and then it starts sprinkling, and it doesn't just start raining, it starts pouring down rain. Like there's a tornado nearby kind of rain, right? 40, 50 mile an hour. And
big time rain.
Hours.
So what's the drive like between those two?
It's pretty straight from Cordova down to Havana. It's just straight south. It's about 110 miles ish, depending on the route. You can do interstate nearly the whole way or highway, or you can kind of do back roads. So they had the option. There was no designated route though. We were just trying to have a place to do testing. Hey, meet you guys there tomorrow, for the heads up stuff. We learned a lot from doing it. Things will change next year for certain. But it was something that was somewhat, impromptu to an already existing event, which is really cool, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, you and I've had that conversation at length. Is like there's opportunity, especially for an event that is going to be multi-day anyways, to add. And again, we're not looking for 300 people or 100 people. Even a lot of times, you could add 20 people to the community by adding these to a few events here and there, and it'd be just a little bit extra for the racer to get in and do it. And then they make a loop and they put these cars on the street, which is our main. That's what we want to do. I want these cars driving. We want those 10-year-old kids that are standing there in the restaurant parking lot to be like, oh my gosh, there's like 10 cars that just passed me, So that's always cool. And that's what I love about this setup here.
Yeah.
So did you guys have classes? Was it one class? How did you work?
We did. We had so there's a new class to the Central Illinois Streetcar Shootout series, and that's called Blue Collar.
Cool.
Usually this race is a fast race. It's very fast cars that are streetable. But they added
Emily Ballard and
her car fits this class really, really good. Actually, it fits good. But we have two classes that were the drag and drive classes. The first one was called Real Street, and the rules for that are essentially, you need to have up and down windows, no wheelie bars, stock firewall, stock floor, 2 seats. It is really street car stuff, right? It eliminates a lot of stuff, but there's no real limitations on power. So you can have big block twin turbo. You can have real power cars in that class. That's the real street class. And then the other class would be blue collar street.
Sweet.
And that's limited to, the cars that you would expect to run a 78 mil turbo, like a D1 Pro Charger, a centrifugal of some sort, things like that. Something that's going to be in the higher 5 range. Somewhere in there is kind of what he was shooting for, something that's a lot streetable, But we had those two classes to compete in, and I knew that we were going to get a lot of quality over quantity. That's what I knew we were going to grab, and that's pretty much what happened. We only had 10 heads up cars come and show up. We had another 15 say they were going to be there, right? But come the day of, you always get people that bail, but. But we had 6 real street, 4 blue collar, and they were not slow cars. That's what I wanted was fast cars. I didn't have a daily driver class. I didn't have there was no street machine eliminator class, no truck classes. This was
index style. Yeah.
This was fast cars only kind of thing, or if you want to be competitive, you're running fast. I think the slowest car actually there, don't confirm me because I don't know for certain, but I think the slowest car there was a Tesla. Because we had a Tesla run.
Nice.
But it was on drag radials, and that car did not play. You see it run, and it was like,
there were some folks chasing that car by about 3:30.
It's a bottom 6-second car, and I mean very bottom, and it'll do that on any road. So it's very cool to see that be, one of the most streetable, slower cars there. So it's a lot of heavy hitters, right? It's really cool to see a group like that together do drag and drive. Usually there's not that many of them, right? So you get a lot of them together and just fun things happen naturally. So
for sure. Well, what about route stops? Did you guys have a dedicated route, or you said no dedicated route, but what about route stops?
We did have a route stop, and the route stop was really interesting because it was one of the route stops we made in 17 on Drag Week, and it was the Moonlight Theater in Galesburg. And I remember driving up to that in my car and thinking that is a really big wall, right? It's a massive concrete wall. It's like 40, 50 feet tall, 100 feet wide. It's huge. I didn't know it was closed. I didn't like Google it, right, or anything like that. I didn't have time to drive this route. So we come pulling in on day one after this massive rainstorm, and it'd been closed for like 2 or 3 years. And there's all these tractors out there now and like old antique equipment. And old boy comes out wearing no shirt, with a beer in his hand, like, "What y'all up to?" And I was like, "I am sorry. I didn't know it wasn't driving anymore." He was like, "No, man, you guys were here back in, 2017 for a bunch of things." I'm like, "Yeah, it's the same thing, kind of. There's gonna be cars coming in and out of here all day long."
How
He's like,
cool.
I'll look forward to seeing them, So that was really cool to see that. But that was our checkpoint, It was about halfway, 60 miles one direction, 50 miles the other direction. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it gives people an opportunity to see stuff they wouldn't normally have stopped at. That's one of the other benefits of drag and drive events is you're going to be out and about, and you're going to have to make that detour off of the interstate and kick it down from 70 miles an hour to get in there and get somewhere.
For sure. Yeah.
Did you have any repair stories or anything? Any cars break? Stuff like that?
We didn't have a whole lot of breakage. One car actually was our Real Street winner lost a intercooler. He exploded his intercooler pretty good on one of the couple fast passes, turning the boost up to try to race the non-drive guys. Because I guess I didn't mention that there's a catch to this. It's we don't have a whole lot of trophies and stuff. This was a money race, so that's what it was for. Winner of Real Street gets $1,000 cash for winning the drive portion. Blue collar gets $500 for winning the drive portion. And then you get to race the guys that are in the same class as you, but you didn't have to drive. So they're, the street cars, right? Yeah. Dwayne, which is who won the Real Street class, very cool car. He ran Six Summer. I got to watch him do really well at Six Summer, fast Mustang.
Dwayne Rule?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's got a good car, good dude, He was trying to beat Eric in his C5 big block Pro Charge Corvette. And I think he knew he was outgunned at the moment because I think he knew the car was hurt. But getting up to that point is when it failed at some point. But of course he turned it up, right? That's what we all do. And then really put a good gash in the intercooler. So, he did that one, but no super bad break on the side of the road stuff that I heard about at all. Nothing like that really happened.
So that I just thought about this too. So did racers have to park their truck and trailer at Havana and then drive to Cordova, or were they able to, truck and trailer at Cordova and then follow along? Not necessarily support, but could they follow along and go to Havana?
Yes, and that was one of the biggest logistical issues with this race. Is I knew before I ever signed on to it that it was going to be 2 tracks, 2 days. And that poses a massive issue for people like me who don't bring 8 guys. I don't have a team. I did street meet by myself, so I don't have people to just come with me now and then. And then if somebody does, go with you, you don't necessarily want them to drive your rig. So it does pose an issue. But most of the guys unloaded their stuff, brought a co-driver, and then they drove together. And we just said, this is a test of your street ability. You want to cheat, you probably can and get away with it. But at the same time, it's an integrity thing. Please do
Why
your
would you
best to not use
do the adventure? Right? Do the adventure. Exactly. And so it's funny you say that we had actually talked, Eric and I, on the way back for Circuit 2024 stuff. Could we add another track and just unload at Mocan and then drive to the next track that morning, do testing or do tech and then take off for that track to race at night. So we've had those conversations before. So that's interesting.
Yeah. It was the first year. Yeah. Lots of stuff to change. I have a lot of ideas for how to make it better and easier for next year. Mm-hmm. It just depends on the schedule because, like I said, we are piggybacking another event.
Well, and the cool thing about it being a series is, once you get the things lined out and it gets pretty easy, then it becomes a normal 10, 15, 20 cars that are racing it anyways. That's cool.
Correct. And usually guys test the night before on Friday nights, no matter where the event's at. Yeah. So we could maybe add something that's not 100-mile drive, but maybe it'd be, test the night before. And then the next morning at, 9 a.m. we go for a drive. and make it a little bit harder, right? Something like that. So
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I dig it, man. I love all of the different ways people are beginning to look at this.
Right.
You know, that's one cool thing about having so many events.
Yes.
So what were some of your favorite cars at the event?
There were a lot of fast cars at the event for sure. I think my favorite car at the event had to be, and I know you guys probably know this name, CJ Durbin was there. And he's a good friend of mine. I've known him for a long time back from when we were street guys. And he had a new car there that I haven't seen in person yet. And it was a 92 Firebird that he built. And CJ's been fast, right? He's been one of the guys, he's had 1,000 horsepower stuff. He built like a 600 horsepower single turbo streetable 92 Firebird with 12-inch subs in the back, right?
Nice.
It's not slow by any measure, you know, but it's just like that perfect amount of power to like get you excited, yet street to do anything. Now, they even had one of his kid seats in the back, you know.
Nice.
So it was just really cool. You don't cherish 600 horsepower street stuff until you've breached that 1,000, 1,200 and then reeled yourself back. So, you know, that was like, I was like,
he's like, I want to have fun for a minute. Dang it.
But he came out, supported the event. Car runs good. I mean, it's CJ, right? He's going to have something that runs good. He's a budget guy, but he's extremely smart, good at wrenching. And it showed. It ran good. It was a strong running car. But I think that might have been my favorite one, actually, was that.
That's
that
cool.
car was just really cool. CJ's car was really cool.
Well, what about sponsors for your portion, or maybe even for the whole, Central Illinois Streetcar Shootout?
For sure. Central Illinois Streetcar Shootout has a lot of sponsors that support them. The two title sponsors for the classes, Real Street was Scram Speed. We put that one together, title sponsor for Real Street. And then the title sponsor for Blue Collar Street was FF Cage Works. They took the kind of the reins on that class to support that new class.
Nice.
With that. But there's a lot of people that support the Heads Up series, you know, in itself, Redline Motorsports, Herring Performance, Midwest Chassis, Race Wire Solutions. There's a lot of them. There's like 8 or 9 more of them. But they support the event throughout the entire year for the payouts and all that kind of stuff. Really, really cool group of guys, and they're backed by some good companies. Awesome series.
I was gonna say, anytime you can get a series like that together, that's always a plus. Well, what did you learn from this event that you'll take into the next one?
I guess I learned a lot, and it was hard trying not to push the event too hard to the point where I would get people that would be intimidated, because we really did have that feeling like it's a heads up hardcore race. I don't want to say that's not the reason I didn't run. I really wanted to run my own race, but I knew I had I could potentially be a winner or something, so I didn't want to say, hey, I'm running my own race, the car is fast, and deter people. And I almost didn't want to share some of the guys that were coming, because I was like, man, if I share this too early, I might get somebody like, oh, I ain't going, that guy runs 490s. Right. So I'm still trying to figure out how to get more racers to come, even though they might be outgunned a little bit, and that's always the hard part about heads up stuff, right? That's, the drag and drive stuff, it's fun enough to do it, encourage people to do it. They have a good time. They don't care win, lose, or draw. Heads up racers aren't really in it for anything other than a win. So
but they want to win.
Gray area, But I think we'll get there. We should have a better turnout next year. I had a lot of guys. The timing was bad because it was already set in stone before I could do anything about it. And then race week was there. And then, I actually talked to John Paul at your race. And he was like, hey, man, your car's fast. You should really come do, the heads up hustle. And I was like, there's a problem with that. I'm putting my own race on 150 miles away from you. That's a heads up race, right?
So same weekend.
Same weekend. Right. So, so the more of these things that go, the logistics get harder. I was supposed to have a lot of other racers, but there were multiple guys at Rocky Mountain that weren't 100% for my race. And there's a couple guys that went to Midwest, the Midwest drags race, So it's just trying to find out a good time to do it next year. some logistics about it could change.
I think you just got to host it. You know what I mean? Like that's what we're seeing with all of this stuff is like, it looks like there's a lot of events, right? When we talk about 31 or 32 events across the country and we're like, oh my gosh, that's so many. But when you start looking at like the distance between them, it really opens up an opportunity for a lot of racers.
For sure. Yeah.
That's cool. Well, you're headed to an event. You messaged me about, you want to talk about that? Where are you headed next?
Yeah, that's actually one of the reasons why I came back to the shop tonight was to continue getting ready for it's not a drag and drive, but it's kind of a, I don't exactly know what it is. We don't have a whole lot of details on it. But Tom Bailey sent a bunch of us emails saying, hey, we'd appreciate it if you came out to, I think it's called the Quick 8 at the NMCA race up at 131 Michigan.
That's right. Yeah.
So shootouts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Drag and drive community, I know a couple of the other racers going. I messaged them, said, what's up? Have you heard anything more? No. So Tom sent us an email 2 nights ago with the details. It sounds like it's going to be really cool. It's a shootout, that we do heads up stuff with the crews involved. It should be a super good time. I always like bringing awareness to anybody, let alone a massive event on this scale that shows, these are competitive cars and they can drive too, so if you got something that maybe isn't super competitive, maybe make it streetable. Come out and hang out with us. You'd be, a head cracker in drag and drive. So, give it a try kind of thing,
That's right. And that, anytime that we can introduce, I keep saying that the bracket community is our next big wave of people coming in because those guys generally have a car that is consistent as hell. And it's not generally hard for the slower guys to convert their cars over. Like some of the faster bracket stuff would be, difficult because they don't want to change it up. But those guys are racers. They go out all the time. They race all the time, all over the country. So this, in my opinion, is our next big wave of folks coming in. So anytime we can be out, like guys like you that can go to like the 6 shootout, things like that with Tom, I think it's NMCA events that helps. The NHRA is starting to kind of have some racers come in and do exhibition runs and things like that. So it's be cool, man. Good luck to you. I hope you kick their ass.
Yeah. They're not slow. Just like
that's right.
Other cars, they're fast. But I love a good race though, so it'll be a good time.
Yeah, dude. I'm sure we'll definitely talk soon. I appreciate it. And again, congratulations on being the fastest 8th mile car at the circuit. And then we'll see, obviously you'll be one of the first ones to see the design, but then also to get the news that we're hoping we can break maybe next week. So
cool.
A lot of really cool stuff happening with the circuit for 2024. So, all right, dude, thanks so much. We're going to kick you off and we got to talk about Street Week Sweden.
Cool. Sounds good, Mike. Later, Eric.
Later.
See ya.
Thanks, man. See ya. Man, another dude that I really like. One of my favorite folks of drag and drive. That car is so fast. He's fast. He, and obviously when you start talking about racers, not suddenly, but racers becoming promoters and putting on drag and drive stuff, that only helps because he has a completely different thought process that would go into hosting a drag and drive. I mean, obviously talking about putting it on the back of an already happening event, I think is one of another wave that we can just keep growing this community. I mean, I'm telling you guys, we're going to take this thing mainstream and we're going to put people on the street. Like that's the plan. With more cars, more hot rods driving around, all that kind of stuff. Showing those 10 and 12 and 13-year-old kids around the country, all the different ways that cars can be cool.
Yeah.
And not their parents' minivans,
And he's only a couple hours for me, so I've told him before I wanna swing by and hang out a little bit. So I gotta make sure I make that happen sometime this year.
Yeah, you got to go hang out with him. I mean, obviously you hung out with him at the circuit and go to the shop, see all that kind of stuff. Let's talk Street Week Sweden because our boy Michael Westberg went ham.
Yes, he did.
In a brand new car. Now the car had been built before, it had been raced before, but it was all brand new to him. New wiring, new turbo setup. Or turbo routing. He basically pulled the engine and his Ace Racing engines out of the S10 that he sold as a roller and actually tried to sell it here in the States. We actually featured it on one of our Found on Racing Junk
right
episodes or segments. And that was a great find there. And then actually had to ship it back home to sell it to a guy over there. Purchased this car. This is a 67 Camaro, I think they had it listed as, but it's first gen Camaro. It's really kind of a pro mod style build. And again, it was a car that had been raced before. Obviously, he went through, put his engine, put all of his wiring, had to do all of that all over again, and really did that in the span of just I want to say it was 2 or 3 months. I mean, it
Yeah.
came together very, very fast, and I think had one round of testing before they went out, maybe one day of testing, if I was following his Facebook feed right, and then came out and just
Destroyed it.
open hand slapped the 4-second 1/8 mile times. So obviously ET of the week, personal best for him, class record, event total record. Street Week Sweden is an 1/8 mile event. Went out and ran a 4:09. Absolutely insane, fastest 1/8 mile we've ever seen in an event. Then there's been guys that have gone probably that fast in quarter mile stuff, but we don't get that kind of times for like some of these drag week events and things like that. So
Yeah.
anyways, 1/8 mile event, standalone, handed in a 4:09 time slip. But on day one, Ken White was messaging me. He's the one that actually told me about it. Guy ran a 4:34 on 4:34 on day one. So I mean, he
Right.
came out swinging hard right out of the gate. The only 4-second average for Street Week Sweden that I could find, I think on day 2 or 3, day 2 for sure, there were like 9 cars in the 4s, and then by the end of the week, Michael Westberg was the only 4-second average with a 4:804 average for the week. So
And we were at the hotel when we found that out,
yeah,
and we were looking, and there was. Do you remember what the number was of how many cars were faster at the beginning of this event than all of last year?
yeah, I want to say it was 7. I think there were
Yeah.
7 cars that were already faster on day 2. But again, this is drag and drive, dude. I think somebody turned in like an 8-second 1/8 mile pass that was in that fast running of cars because you
Right.
know exactly how that happens. I mean, they come out, they swing, they throw a belt, whatever, don't get a
Right.
chance to make another pass. So it's pretty crazy. Michael Westberg, fastest car, 3 of the 5 days of racing. They were almost out. They had to end up with broken steering box. He said something about water. The struggle with following the Street Week Sweden Facebook page is they talk in whatever language that is over there. So
Yes.
you Facebook translates it for you. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense. So I need to learn that language. Whatever they speak over there, that's what I need to learn. Somebody tell me what that is, because that's what I need to learn so I can go over there and conversate with them. But anyways, they said because of water, the steering box broke. I don't know what that meant, but that's what they said. So they end up waiting like 7 hours and before someone could bring them a replacement. They were almost dead in the water, almost didn't finish the week. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to have to dig a little bit deeper, but Kim White brought up that Michael Westberg may be the first person to be the overall winner on 2 continents.
That's kind of a cool.
That's kind of
stat.
badass.
Right.
So that's really cool. I want to say thanks to Ken. He's a good friend. He runs the Drag and Drive Fans UK page or
Yep.
UK group. As you got to join that up. If you are interested in Drag and Drive at all, they post a ton of great stuff on that Facebook group as well. So Ken White, thank you for that. That is really cool. I can't think of anyone else except no, I think that's probably Michael Westbrook will be the only one because of Sick Week, obviously this year winning the overall. And I can't think of anyone that has won the overall in the States at like Drag Week and then taken a car to like Australia or something like that.
Okay.
So, or
Yeah, I was thinking
raced
of.
a car in Australia.
I was thinking of what is it, Stefan Gustafsson?
Um,
But I don't know.
he was the overall 2022 Sick Week winner. Maybe that car. Oh, you know what? I bet you're right because that car raced in Sweden for a while. Still a good catch from Ken. Want to say appreciate that. And then another good story from Ken White. Man, I'm telling you, that's what I love about this community. They're helping me because like sometimes I just can't catch this stuff. He also found that Al Mack may be the only racer to compete in a drag and drive race on 3 different continents. That's right, in a single year.
Wow.
Al raced a Monte Carlo at Sick Week. He said grenaded the engine in the Monte Carlo. He raced Street Weekend UK Okay, 2023, which happened just a couple weeks ago, and then also raced Street Week Sweden in his 7-second Volvo 162, which is a smaller Volvo. So pretty awesome. Al Mack, thanks again to Ken White for bringing that to my attention, dude.
Those
Can
are
you
cool
imagine?
stories.
Like 3 continents, drag and drive events. What does that take? You know, we talked to the guy Benny and Benny's Custom Works, who's in the States racing the Barra powered Toyota right
Yeah.
now. But
17 grand to ship it over.
yeah,
So
that's
what does
crazy.
that cost to do 3
Well,
continents?
yeah, and so obviously they're not the same car, but it's the same driver, same racer each
Yeah.
time. But like our friend Nick Scarju, he raced at Rocky Mountain or at Race Week, which is Rocky Mountain 2.0. He bought a truck here, flew in, worked on the truck for like 2 weeks, and then went and raced 2.0. And he did that again, I think this year at another event, or is planning it. So really cool. I want to say the largest class of Street Week Sweden. I didn't fill it out, but I need to. I forgot to put that note in there. But Best Sportsman Award went to Patrick Williamson. And then the awards or the results have not been uploaded to their website yet. So once they are uploaded there, then I'll pull all of that data. And that's, again, another part of the pile of data that I've got to go through to add all of that stuff to the I Survived a Drag and Drive 2023 list that'll be on the dragonDrive.com website.
Good thing you got plenty of time, right?
Dude, here's the thing. So
How long is your list right now?
it is growing by the hour. As I'm working through something, I'm adding stuff to that list. You know, a personal to-do list gets longer and longer as I'm home all day now. You know, and what's funny is being here. You know, thank you to everyone that's made it possible for me to do this full time. It's really a huge. It's almost stressful now because I'm like, there's so much I want to get done. That I'm bringing on a bunch of anxiety because I want to provide so much content, but like I have to create that to-do list because I'm like, I've got to do this one thing. So that's my biggest thing that I'm learning now is discipline and time management. You know, can I write an article in 2 hours? Can I grab pictures and edit those in 2 hours and add those? You know, luckily Eric did all of our pictures from Midwest Drag, so it was easy for the articles I'm writing for Midwest Drags because then I can just go to our Facebook page and grab those pictures and put them in the article for those racers and stuff. But as we move towards other events and Street Week Sweden stuff, you know, I've got to go in, I've got to grab those, and I've got to dig through Facebook to find that. And this is probably more than anybody cares to know, but my ultimate goal is for when you think of a drag and drive event and you think, man, I need some information for that, you come to dragonDrive.com. To do that, you're going to start seeing a lot more links to the website compared to me just putting the post on Facebook because it's so much easier to search on the website than it is to search through hundreds of posts a week on Facebook and definitely on Instagram. You almost can't keep up with that stuff. So what haven't we talked about tonight, dude? I feel like we've gone through just about everything.
Yeah, road trip drag challenge number 2.
Dude, this weekend there were 5 events this last weekend.
Right.
It was crazy.
Right,
so yeah, we
there's
got
2 of us.
Talk about that. Yeah.
2 of us, and we were at the same event.
Yeah, it was. Hey, anytime you want to just send me to this road trip drag challenge in Palmyra, Queensland, Australia, I'm in. You send me there. You do Midwest Drags. I'll go to this one down there in Australia.
I bet you would.
So one thing that's cool about that, we had Mick Apps on earlier in the year talking about the Road Trip Drag Challenge number 1. So they do 3 events a year. So this is number 2. And then so they raced at Palmyra like we talked about. What's kind of cool about this is it's a weekend event. So they race on Friday or race on Saturday, race and drive. So you have one group that races in the morning and does their drive in the afternoon. Then you have one group that does their drive in the morning and races in the afternoon. So it's pretty easy. It's easier on the track. It gives you all day racing at the track. It allows a lot of people to see it across the area because they go, I think, what did he say last time? Like 100 miles, something like that loop. It's pretty easy. They go out to a checkpoint and then come back. And then they throw a huge party on Saturday night. like that's what I took from the entire conversation that we had on that live stream, was that there's a big party on Saturday night.
Right.
So I'm in on that. I definitely want to go, and we'll do that event at some point in the near future. If you want to hear more about how they kind of handle the event and the classes and things like that, you can watch our last event, or you can watch our last interview with Mick. I think it was just a mid-May or something like that. That they
Or
put
listen
this
to it on the podcast.
Yep. Dragon Drive Dragon Drive Addiction podcast on all of your favorite podcast apps.
Yep.
Eric works very hard on those. That's another thing you need to add to your intro there too. So fastest pass of that event was Scott Crobin with a Ford Falcon EL, whatever that means, and then it was a 5:9:59 on day 2 of racing. So a lot of stuff happened, dude. 5 events this past weekend concluded. All the racing that goes along with that, all of the compilation of data that I'm working through. So, I feel like we've had a great show tonight. Let's talk about what we're going to go over next week, which is obviously the Midwest Drags 11.0 Index.
Yep.
That's such a huge class and so tight that there's going to be articles that'll come with that. And then also within that, that'll provide us with a ton of data to talk about. So we talked about the 12.0 index today. We'll talk about the 11.0 index and another one of the classes, maybe Unlimited or Pro Street Power Adder, because it was a good race between Glenn Hunter and Graham Hayes at Midwest Drags. Graham Hayes had a 700 and something cubic inch big block Chevrolet on, a bunch of nitrous, and ran 770s all week. So he was ready to go anytime. If Glenn had any struggles, Graham would have taken first place in that class.
Right.
Next week, we're going to talk about Miles of Mayhem, it'll be halfway through the week of Miles of Mayhem. They start on the 23rd, which is going to be Sunday. So they'll run that event. That's an 8th mile event based out of Canada, which is really cool. We're going to have some guests from Midwest Drags. We'll have some guests from some of these other events that we have talked about. I'd like to have some conversations with Michael Westberg between now and then, maybe see if we can get him on the show to talk about that, or even possibly the promoter from Street Week Sweden.
Yeah.
And then we'll obviously go into a little more detail, because hopefully there'll be more available for Street Week Sweden next week. And then, of course, Dragon Drive World Champion. We're going to talk about that a lot. There'll be a lot of I'm not going to say time to go into that kind of stuff, but we won't have such a packed show as we had tonight. I mean, dude, we're 2 hours and 15 minutes in, and we have absolutely talked the entire time.
Yeah,
there hasn't been a break.
Yeah, and the people can't see the notes that we're going off of is 6 pages, which is by far the most notes that we've ever had. So your first week of full-time Drag and Drive Addiction was at Midwest Drags, and now your second week is just you're killing it. I mean, articles and videos and posts and
buying cars
and buying cars. Yeah,
I spent probably 3 hours Monday with that whole car thing, and then another 2.5 today. I want to say thank you to Steven, my brother, for getting the trailer. He was really the driving force behind being able to get it picked up today. Just wait till you see the video. Narcoleptic Customs is our channel that I'm gonna put all that on. It was missing an axle, so we jammed some fence posts we found on the ground and put a tire in it. Andrew Nelson says he's exhausted just listening. I want to say thank you to Andrew for the continued support. Him and I were talking a couple weeks ago, and he's on the mend, and so it's great to see him commenting in here and all that kind of stuff. Andrew Holden, our boy in the Dirty Gertie.
Yeah,
man, if you guys aren't following Dirty Gertie on Instagram, you need to get over there and do that. I want to say thanks to everybody that has made comments tonight in the chat, y'all. Huge I don't know, fist bump to you guys, because it's been awesome to see that come in. Eric has worked his butt off to run those tonight and also look at the notes and ask questions and things like that. So if you feel like I talked a whole lot, it's because I did. So we'll split the duties up a little more as we move forward. But I know Eric was busy. There's more than 150 comments in the chat tonight, so one of our biggest nights ever. So again, thank you very much to everybody that's watched. Appreciate it. We'll see you guys
Saturday.
Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, for the Dragon Drive News, a hard-hitting 30-minute max episode of how all the news and entertainment from the Drag and Drive community with Sweet Patina Built for Drag and Drive, which is a car and racer feature. And then obviously the Howard's Cams comedies segment. Dude, we're going to have good memes. There's a lot of stuff going on. I think folks have turned the corner on Atco. At first it was, oh man. And now it's like beginning to become funny. So I've seen some memes floating. So that's good. I see dudes with wrenches in here making comments. Yes, you did miss the episode tonight, but you can find it on your favorite podcast app under Drag and Drive Addiction Podcast, or tell them, Eric, can they just ask Alexa?
Yes, you can just ask Alexa to play Drag and Drive Addiction Podcast, and you will get the latest episode.
That's right. All right, guys. Thanks a bunch. See ya.
See ya.
Dude, talk about a